PNR Networks is a member of Patreon. Show your love for our shows by joining our ongoing fundraising campaign and get some fantastic perks in return. Check it out and become a Patreon sponsor. You can sign up at patreon.com, patreon.com/PNR Networks. And thanks for your support.
This podcast is a member of the Blueberry Network. Blueberry. No E's. That's Blueberry, BLUBRRY.com. Blueberry.com.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
Oh, it's that time of year again. It's going to be a fun festival of all these crazy films and all these crazy cities going all over the place.
Yep, it's going to be really good. We're going to look at film festivals from all over the country and all over the world, and we're glad you're joining us for that.
It's going to be fun as we hit our 11th annual Festival of Film Festivals right here, right now. I'm T.C. Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
Like sands through the movies.
This is Subject Cinema.
Stand by to receive our transmission.
This town needs an enema.
Celebrating a decade of film podcasting. Lasting out of Beantown, USA, you're tuned into Subject Cinema. With T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown.
Directive.
Oh, behave. Yeah.
I volunteer as tribute.
Suppose you run your business and let me run mine. Here's looking at you, kid.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome TC and Kim.
Festival Flash!
Okay. Okay, honey.
What?
Baby.
What?
Sweetness.
What?
Do I need to get a paper bag for you to breathe in?
No, I'm just excited. It's a festival.
Yeah.
It's our first festival of the year.
Right. You're dancing around like a spaz, and you're like scaring
Well, it's not
me.
like I'm cabbage patching or something.
You're scaring the children.
We don't have children. Honestly. Welcome to Subject Cinema. I'm T.C. Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown, and it's really bad when I have to be the voice of calm and sanity. That's
Subject Cinema number 555. Just waiting for you to stop.
I'm just saying.
And that date 1/29/17, and we are hoping you are here with us this week for our annual Festival of Film Festivals. This is our 11th edition of this. We've been doing this since our very first year on the air. Mm-hmm. This show, now normally we would have a huge rundown. It would run an enormous length of time. And this year we're doing something a little bit different because Sundance just blew up this year in ways that it hasn't blown up in several years, and I'll get to that in a minute. We will still have coverage of Palm Springs, Santa Barbara, Slamdance, Victoria, Big Sky, and Berlinale, but we're going to focus most of our attention on Sundance because it was nuts out there. After the last couple of years, Sundance has had a couple of bad years where they've had all these huge sales on films that have been critically acclaimed when they're at Sundance, and then they get released and tank at the box office.
Yep.
This happened to Me and Earl and The Dying Girl. It happened to Dope. It happened to several other films from 2 years ago. Last year it happened to almost everything except Manchester by the Sea, which is actually a hit. And
considering that Me and Earl and the Dying Girl started out so high.
Yeah, and then some critics turned on it and it kind of went south. And it's a shame.
Which is unfair because it was a great movie.
Yeah, Sundance is just crazy. And of course, it is the grand dam of all of the early year festivals. Now, we have other festival shows coming up throughout the year. We'll have one that covers the spring festivals in Boston Springs Festival. That's a two-parter, and that comes up in May. Then in July, our summer special, and in the fall, we'll have our fall festival. Fiesta Festival. Anyway,
you really do need a paper bag to breathe in or something. How much sugar did you have?
I haven't had that much sugar.
Well, maybe you should have some.
It's the meds. I'm having all kinds of fun going through some of the titles, because some of the titles on this year's festival circuit have been interesting, and of course the political climate is playing into it as they do in all the festivals. We're going to try and keep that out of this show. We focus. That's fine if you want to do that, and we don't mind you doing that, but we want to focus on the films. Yep. That's what we're here to tell you about.
Yep.
These are the films that are getting. I mean, there is I have over 30. I think it's close to 30 sales. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's usually between 15 and 20. It's huge, and Netflix is at the top of the list with like 10 of them.
Well, because Netflix has found themselves a real little gold mine in the fact that when they, not only their series, which are all going gangbusters, things like, Stranger Things and Daredevil and Jessica Jones and all of those, but a lot of these films that are Netflix exclusives, people are like, well, this is exclusive, this is important, I want to see it.
Sometimes.
They're
not all festival films, though. They're not all festival films.
No, that is true, but it's become more of a prestige kind of a thing.
The festival landscape changed drastically 2 years ago when Netflix and Amazon jumped into the deep water with huge pockets. And ever since then, there's been a lot of changes in the way, a lot of stuff that premiered on at Sundance last year went straight to Netflix, and as a result, lost out because the Academy is not touching stuff except for in the technical categories. They did get a couple of documentary nominations this year, but
how long do you think it's going to be before that glass ceiling gets broken?
I don't know, and it's going to be interesting to watch because there is a terrific writer online named Bill Deaver. He is part of DriveInsUSA.com, and he is an advocate of theatrical distribution, and I am too. I love seeing films in the theater. We love to go to our local here in Boston. Our favorite theaters are places like the Brattle and the Coolidge. Brattle's in Cambridge, the Coolidge Corner in Brookline, the Kendall Square, which is a landmark cinema in Cambridge. And the little out-of-the-way places we go, like Cinema Salem for the Salem Film Fest, and a few places like that. But we mostly go to the multiplex, too, because it's right near our home. Showcase Revere is like a 2-minute cab ride from here.
Right.
And so we see all the blockbusters there or at AMC Boston Common. So we try to get as many little films in as we can, and more often than not, we're finding ourselves watching them on screeners, online screeners, or on Netflix and Amazon when they come out. So it's hard for us because I'd rather see them on the big screen, but our schedule is such that we don't have that time. We can program the time more at home. And I think that's what's happening, and I think that's why theaters are having some problems again.
Yeah.
Is because people, the theater companies, especially the multiplexes and the major corporations like AMC, Regal, and all those, are doing bottom line stuff for the investors. And the art house places, Brattle, Coolidge, do things bottom line for the theater goers.
I think you're right.
And that has a lot to do with it. And thankfully, that's where all the good art films come, is those places. So as we go through the next couple of hours, we're going to run down the titles as quickly as we can, but try to give you some precise stuff and let you know the films that are really generating the buzz, especially at Sundance, because these are the films you're going to be seeing. Well, okay, let's be honest. 60% of the films you're going to see after September getting Oscar buzz are the films that are going to come from Sundance.
Yep.
40% of them will come from Cannes and Toronto and Telluride and the fall circuit, and a few might slip in at the very end of the year.
But there are also films that you're probably going to hear a lot about online.
And places like IndieWire and our site and other places that cover independent films in more greater detail than some of the other major sites do. And so what we're going to do is we usually go in chronological order. So we're going to take a quick break right here and be back with a few of the titles that made some buzz at the Palm Springs International Festival,
when Subject Cinema returns.
Real movies for real people. Subject Cinema.
His movies.
Way to go, Charlie.
I think it rips through your clothes when it takes you over.
More human than human is our motto.
He tasks me, and I shall have him.
Her movies.
The hills are alive.
You're so jealous you can hardly breathe.
The rum!
Yes, the rum is gone.
Why is the rum gone?
Suddenly my life doesn't seem such a waste.
Fuzzy Fur Movies. The Cavebabble Podcast. We babble about the movies you love.
And probably a few that you love to hate.
Find out more at cavebabble.com. Also available on iTunes, Stitcher, and by Smoke Signal. C-A-V-E. Babble. Cavebabble.com. Movies for him, her, and you.
If you're looking for great films, well, that's okay. You'll like us anyway. Subject Cinema.
Welcome back to Subject Cinema. I'm T.C. Kirkham.
Hi, I'm Kim Brown.
Subject Cinema number 555, our 11th annual Fethtival of Film Festivals. We hope you've been around for a long time and are always a loyal listener. But if you're new, we're glad to have you. Mm-hmm. And this is a great show to start with because we've got a great rundown of the early festival circuit in America and also in Berlin. And some of the films you're going to be seeing over the next 6 to 8 months at your local theater.
Yep.
And we hope that you'll take the time to drop us a line, let us know what you think sounds good or what you think sounds ridiculous. Our address, subjectcinema@PNRNetworks.com. Or you can also leave us a voicemail or a SpeakPipe, and you can find out how to do that in the show notes. There's links to both of them. We're going to start off with the Palm Springs International Film Festival. Palm Springs is the first every year. This year, I believe it ran January 2nd through the 14th, something like that. January 5th through the 15th this year. I wasn't too far off. Palm Springs is always the first of the big four in the wintertime, and they're all in January except Santa Barbara usually straddles February too. And they had some interesting stuff coming this year. One buzzy film that came out of there was the documentary Eagles of Death Metal, Non Amas, which is, of course, about the band that was at that attack in France last year, where a lot of their audience got killed.
Yeah.
And this is a second documentary from Colin Hanks. Colin, best known as an actor, and this, the fact that Tom Hanks is his dad, also did the terrific Tower Records documentary last year, All Things Must Pass. It was a terrific movie. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this. And I'm again, it follows this band and both the early part and the aftermath of what happened. And, I mean, that was such a crazy thing.
Such a horrifying thing, but I find it very interesting. The full name of the film is Eagles of Death Metal Nos Amis, which means our friends.
Right.
And I think that that's a statement that we need in this world more than ever. Right now.
It is. The other films that were world premieres at Palm Springs this year were The Beautiful Fantastic, which is from director Simon Abowd. That's actually getting some good buzz also. Breakable You, director Andrew Wagner, also directed with Holly Hunter, Tony Shalhoub, and Alfred Molina. I believe this is a trilogy of stories with each of them telling what's going on, different sides of some story. This is what I understood from what I read about it. The Concessionaires Must Die from director America Young. Do It or Die from director Jorn Windther. Everybody Loves Somebody. This is a Mexican film, not the one that came out last year of the same title or close title. Director Catalina Aguilar Mistretta and with Carla Souza. Purna from India. Director Raul Bose. The Sense of an Ending from director Ritesh Batra and Take Me Home Huey. Directors Alicia Braun and Christine Steele. There were a number of international premieres as well, and quite a few North American premieres for films that had played in other festivals. Palm Springs is more about the glitz and the glamour than it is about the film titles. I mean, there are great films there every year, don't get me wrong. But this is the first major gala. Palm Springs puts on a huge gala to celebrate certain performers every year. and to what's that word? Fete, F-E-T-E.
Yeah,
fete them. What does that mean anyway?
Celebrate.
I know. They this year was no exception. They also have some interesting sidebars. This year they did Poland, focus on Poland with some Polish films. New Voices, New Vision, which are usually new directors.
There's the Modern Masters feature, which was 10 films from international directors that literally went all over the world.
Yeah, it was some of last year's biggest festival films, too, including I Am Not Madame Bovary from China, Cannes Film Festival winner I, Daniel Blake from France and Belgium and the UK, and Personal Shopper from France, which is actually coming out here next month or March, I forget which. True Stories are all documentaries, and they have some interesting stuff there. They had the world premiere of the Bright Lights, starring Carrie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds, just a couple of days after the passing of both of them in late December. The Oscar nominee I Am Not Your Negro, which has been talked about. A movie we're going to be reviewing in a couple of weeks, the brilliant and beautiful cat documentary Ketty, and one that played up here at the Boston Globes Doc Festival that we didn't get to, that I'd still like to see. It's a film called Obit. It's about obituary writers, and I for newspaper obituary writers. And I'm like, that is really something. I'm looking forward to seeing that when it comes out. It's one of those weirdo documentaries that TC absolutely has to see when they come out, like Chicken People and $1 Million Duck last year. It's like, okay.
Well, sometimes those are the most fun. I mean, documentaries, for the most part, are usually very serious subjects. It's things that they're trying to bring people's attention to, or causes that are very important. And that's obviously a very good thing. But let's be honest, a lot of documentaries are incredibly dour. So every once in a while, when you get something that's, I
have such trouble getting her to see any dour documentaries.
Yep.
Once in a while, I can do it, but she likes the fluffy ones.
I like documentaries about duckies and bunnies and penguins and things like that. I admit it.
You enjoyed Nuts last year.
I did.
You enjoyed Yarn.
Yeah, but
Yarn is so underseen. People need to see that.
I know, but see, that's where I'm going. I mean, documentaries about serious subjects are obviously terribly important because they're getting out, messages about causes that need people to pay attention to them. But also that there isn't enough love given to quirky documentaries like Yarn, like Nuts. Although by the end of Nuts, I was seriously, I won't use the word, you know what it is, but I won't use it.
Yeah.
But I think, and that, like we mentioned, I mean, Ketty, when we review Ketty in a couple of weeks, if you're, just real quick, if you're a cat lover, you have to see this movie.
Ketty's been on my radar since it premiered, I think, at Cannes last year, and it is...
Yeah, quirky docs don't get as much love.
It hits next month, thanks to Oscilloscope Films, and we're going to talk a lot about Ketty next week. They also debuted a couple of new sections in recent years. One of them is the After Dark section, which is their equivalent of the midnight movies from Sundance and Slamdance and such. One of the highly critically acclaimed films of the last year in that section this year, which is Under the Shadow, which is in the Clotrudis radar up here, along with Brimstone, The Girl with All the Gifts, and Untamed. They also do a number of directors' features. They have, like I said, a ton of fetes, galas, and it's a great place to see some films that you may not see anywhere else. A lot of the movies at the Palm Springs Film Festival will show up again later at festivals, but they're not. They've either already been bought and are already scheduled to come out,
right?
Or they're getting seen for mostly the international market and will be out in America probably in the summertime, and more than likely limited or straight to video on demand. So. But there doesn't make them any
definitely not
lesser than they are. Some, as we said, some of the titles that we went through there are ones we'll keep a watch for. I will have a list of the titles that we're talking about on this week's show sometime up this week on the website at eCinemaOne.com. Just list of what you should be watching for, and I think it should be pointed. Well, I'll do that when we get to Sundance. There's a lot of great stuff coming out in Palm Springs. It's just the tip of the iceberg. When we come back, before we hit Sundance, we're going to go to its sister festival, because it's a smaller festival, but it's one that always generates great buzz. Slamdance.
When Subject Cinema returns.
No film is too good or too bad for us. This is Subject Cinema.
In a world where podcasts already seem to address every imaginable subject, one man broke new ground with a seemingly random obsession about exploding helicopters in movies. He was a podcaster on the edge, a maverick broadcaster who played by his own rules. Now, he has a last chance to talk about the strange way helicopters explode in film. Exploding Helicopter, available on iTunes and Podomatic now. Think you know about chopper fireballs? Think again.
All movies, all the time. Subject Cinema.
Welcome back to Subject Cinema. This week it's our Festival of Film Festivals. I'm Kim Brown.
I'm T.C. Kirkham. More feeling with that. The Festival of Film Festivals.
I don't want to spit out my cough drop.
Okay, fine. We're here every year with this on Subject Cinema, and the January film circuit is crazy. It's when all the big movies of the year start coming out to the festival circuit. And there's 4 majors and three smaller ones. 5 majors, actually. Berlin is a major, and 2 smaller ones that we cover on this one. And it's really always a lot of fun to find the films, because we will spot films a year in advance, and then suddenly in October and November we'll see this title and it's like, where have I heard? Oh crap, that wasn't at Sundance. Wait a minute. It's like, okay. Slamdance is. When Sundance really took... Sundance has been around. It started as the Park City Film Festival back in the 80s. And then it became the Sundance Film Festival when Robert Redford's Sundance Institute bought into it and bankrolled it. And it's always been important, but it started to become hella important around 1992 when it really started to explode the indie films.
The thing is, film festivals have always been important to people involved with film. If you asked your regular person on the street before the 90s, do you know where your local film festival is? They probably would have said, we have a local film festival?
Unless they're really film fans or film buffs.
And that's changed a lot.
Oh, it has. I mean, you look at the local ones. The local ones are jammed when we're there now.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow. Slamdance was one of several knockoffs of Sundance. It started, I believe, in the late 90s or 2000s, and there was like at least 7 or 8 different competing festivals, and they all got run out of business finally, except for Slamdance. Slamdance is the alternative film festival. These are the films you won't find at Sundance, and you won't go to Sundance to see anyway. It's the equivalent up here of the Boston Underground Film Festival. Mm-hmm. And they always have something that sparkles. It doesn't matter whether it's narrative or documentary. Last year, the documentary winner at Slamdance was The $1 Million Duck. We talked about that. We saw it at the Salem Film Fest. It is a little story about duck stamp painting contests.
Yeah.
And if you've never seen it, it may still be on demand through CNN. I'm not sure, because no. Was it? No, Animal Planet. Sorry, Animal Planet bought $1 Million Duck. It may still be on demand. If not, it is out on DVD, and you can get it on either Amazon or Netflix. I forget which. It is there for free viewing, for streaming. But it's a funny little film. So it's that quirky little Slamdance title. It's usually what you find. This year's narratives, they're all over the road, and I'm like, okay. So we'll just run through them here real quick. We won't give the cast or anything, but we'll give you a little bit on each film as we go through. The first one is from Taiwan. It is a film called Aerotropolis from director Zhengning Li. After Alan invested everything in a new home to flip for profit, only to have it languish on the market, turning his daily life into a haze of financial pressures and an erosion of reality. I didn't know they did home flipping in Taiwan. I thought that was a purely American greed thing.
No.
Okay, sorry.
Next up after that is a German film called Beat Beat Heart. Daydreaming her way out of a broken heart, Kirsten's denial as well as her days are shaken up with the arrival of her mother dealing with her own relationship's demise. So, that sounds like fun.
From the USA, there's Cortez from director Cheryl Nichols, about struggling musician Jesse who tracks down his ex Annie in a small town in New Mexico, forced to face the decisions of his past as present-day consequences set in. Again, I don't know. I'm not familiar with anybody in the cast except Judith Ivey. She's got a supporting role. Mm-hmm. A lot of times, Slamdance is spotlighting newer actors that you haven't seen and that will probably show up in your other movies within a year. This is where the Duplass brothers took off with Slamdance and Sundance. So.
Mm-hmm. Also from the United States is Dave Made a Maze. The story of Dave, who builds a fort in his living room and ends up trapped inside by fantastical pitfalls, booby traps, and creatures, which begs the question, how big is Dave's living room? Leaving his girlfriend Annie to head up the eccentric rescue team to go in after him.
Sure it does.
Yeah.
Now, my question is this the Bill Watterson that created Calvin and Hobbes? That's the director and writer of this film?
I don't know.
I would love to know. I'm going to have to look that up.
I would like to say probably not, because it's not an...
You're telling me this doesn't sound like a Calvin and Hobbes plot?
Well...
Yeah, I gotta find that out. Dim the Fluorescence from Canada, from director Daniel Worth, a struggling actress and an aspiring playwright funnel their uninhibited passion into their only paying work they can find, role-playing demonstrations for corporate seminars. Doesn't that sound like a wonderfully fulfilling job?
From China and Australia comes a joint production called The Family. Liu and Deng are a couple in their 70s who set off to visit their adult children in 3 faraway cities in an immersive exploration of family dynamics and daily life.
From the USA, Kate Can't Swim, from director Josh Hellman. When Kate's best friend M returns from abroad with a surprising new lover, they embark on a reunion vacation with their partners, but the peaceful getaway quickly becomes emotionally complicated. What is it with the name Kate the last few years? There's been a lot of movies with Kate in the title. I'm like, okay.
This one sounds really fascinating to me, and it's pretty much a United Nations of people involved with this. This film is a joint production between France, the UK, Germany, and Luxembourg.
Oh, but no Liechtenstein.
No, but no Liechtenstein. Private joke, sorry. It's called Kuro. It's the story of a Japanese woman living in Paris, tending to her paraplegic lover, passing time by recounting a story about the time they once spent together in Japan, rich with anecdotes, myths, and an unexpected dark turn.
Ooh. From Germany, Weatherhouse directed Frauke Hoffmann, I believe it's pronounced, with Eric Schefter. Set in an unspecified time of extreme climate change, yay. An isolated group of disoriented characters develop their own strange belief systems and engage in absurd activities to process their dilemma. Again, I'm not familiar with any of the cast, but this has that little whiff of disaster movie in it that might be fodder for my new show, Catastrophe Vortex. We'll
I was going to say, does this sound like a disaster movie is filmed by Dieter from Sprockets, or am I like,
Oh, God!
I hope I'm wrong about that. From Canada, we get Wexford Plaza. Betty is a lonely strip mall security guard, and an unexpected moment with charming deadbeat Danny ends up setting off the unraveling of both their lives.
Okay, and finally, in the narratives, is Withdrawn from Canada. Adrian Murray, director. Living in a basement he can't afford, Aaron spends his days doing drum solos and talking his way out of paying for utilities, until he finds a lost credit card and devises a plan to defraud its owner. Oh, that sounds wonderful. Promoting criminal activities. I can't say it because it doesn't. The bad thing about Slamdance is they don't ever tell you whether it's a drama, comedy, horror.
No.
You have to figure it out for yourself. And if it's at Slamdance, you know it's going to be a little off the wall anyway. So okay,
it's going to be a little off the center.
Yeah, let's run down the docs real quick.
Sure. From the USA, we have Bogalusa Charm. Through the lens of an anachronistic charm school that has existed for almost 3 decades in rural Louisiana, we explore a town confronted with contemporary issues of class and race.
I've actually heard of this. I think
one of us has.
One of the ladies over at IndieWire wrote up something about this when it was in filming, when they were kickstarting. I remember this. I remember.
I didn't even know charm schools still existed.
Yeah. The children send their regards from Austria. Adult victims of physical abuse by clergy members in Austria revisit the sites of their childhood traumas and make public their stories to shed light into one of the greatest crimes of the post-war period. Well, I guess it didn't happen just in America. That's. I don't know whether to say that's comforting or frightening. One of the two.
There are evil people everywhere.
There are.
You know. From Australia comes Hotel Coolgardie. Somewhere between Australia's most isolated city and its largest gold pit lies Coolgardie, where the arrival every 3 months of a new pair of foreign female backpackers to work the only bar in town is keenly anticipated by the town's hot-blooded males.
Oh, great.
Oh boy, am I going to need a shower after this one.
Coyote Ugly in the Outback. Okay. The Modern Jungle from Mexico and the U.S., a story of globalization filtered through the fever dream of a Mexican shaman. This is an intimate portrait. I can't talk all of a sudden. An intimate portrait, there we go, of Zouk culture, commodity fetish, and the predicament of documentary cinema. What they mean by that is this is one of the films where they're not too sure they want to be on camera after all, and it's all takes place on camera, if I'm not mistaken. I was reading about it the other day. So, next.
From the United States comes On the Sly in Search of the Family Stone. Director and superfan Michael Ruben Stone sets out in search of longtime reclusive funk legend Sly Stone. Along the way, he meets with some success but finds countless more failures in trying to capture a man who refuses to be contained.
Now that's terrible. I'm sorry. I thought Sylvester. What is his name? Sly, but it's Sylvester too, isn't it? Stone.
I don't know.
I thought he passed away.
So did I.
So apparently not. Apparently he's just reclusive. I know one of the ladies in the band passed away last year. This has got Clive Davis from Arista Records, Dick Cavett, Paul Schaefer, a whole bunch of people he interviewed for that. Strad Style from Stefan Avalos, a rural Ohio eccentric with an obsession for Stradivari, I'm assuming that's violins, convinces a famous European concert violinist that he can make a copy of one of the most famous and valuable violins in the world. Fighting time, poverty, and most of all himself, Danny Houck puts everything on the line for one shot at glory. So this is about a guy making a copy of a Stradivarius. Next.
Okay. I have no idea why you'd want to do that, but we'll run with it. From the United States comes Supergirl. Naomi seems like a typical 11-year-old Orthodox Jewish girl. Watching her compete to lift almost 3 times her body weight tells a different story. Wow. That sounds pretty intense.
Yeah, I've seen a picture from that and like, oh, okay. This is interesting. It's scary watching her lift that stuff. Who is Arthur Chu from the USA? Arthur Chu is an 11-time Jeopardy winner turned internet iconoclast, and he battles dark forces as a blogger and cultural pundit, ultimately realizing that to create positive change in the world, he must first heal his own wounds. This is the rundown for this year's Slamdance. Slamdance is an amazing festival because, for small as it is, the number of people that really got their first big notice here in the last decade includes, or the last decade and a half, include Christopher Nolan, Oren Peli from Paranormal Activity movies, Jared Hess, the director of Napoleon Dynamite, Lena Dunham, Ben Zetlin, who did Beasts of the Southern Wild, a movie we adore, Jeremy Saulnier, who's did Blue Ruin a couple years ago, and who moved up to Sundance last year with Green Room, and now his actor Macon Blair is moving up to Sundance with one of their top titles this year. Also, Seth Gordon of The King of Kong and Horrible Bosses. A lot of people made their debut here, so don't poo-poo Slamdance. There is a lot of great stuff that comes out of this festival.
Absolutely.
I got to admit, Dave Made a Maze is the one thing that is jumping out at me in a big way. And it's not just because it sounds so ridiculous and funny and scary. I don't know.
Surreal,
but the idea
weird.
that this could be Bill Watterson is interesting. I'm going to go look that up during the break. When we come back, we're going to jump ahead to the last of the 4 big ones that we talk about because it isn't coming up yet. It comes up in early February. It starts later this week, I believe. The Santa Barbara International Film Festival.
When Subject Cinema returns.
Real movies for real people. Subject Cinema.
Check out the Blueprint Review podcast at blueprintreview.co.uk. This could be interesting because I know we've got some very diverse people. I'm going to be arguing with Darren a lot.
I think it's going to be me v you lot with maybe Laura sat in the middle.
To be honest, I think it's about expectation.
Yeah.
Like, I think...
Yeah, I expected it to
Welcome to the soundtrack of your life. You're listening to Subject Cinema with TC Kirkham and Kim Brown.
Well, welcome back to Subject Cinema. I'm TC Kirkham.
Hi, I'm Kim Brown.
It is our 11th annual Fethtival of Film Festivals, and we are going to talk right in this segment about the International 32nd Santa Barbara International Film Festival. Mm-hmm. Santa Barbara actually takes place this coming week, if you're listening day and date, February 1st through the 11th this year. Santa Barbara is always one of my favorites because they get some of the most eclectic titles, and they have a section devoted to extreme sports, usually surfing, but there's occasionally other stuff in there. And Santa Barbara has also been highly praised by our old friend Larry Richmond of Larry411.com. He loves the Santa Barbara Film Festival, and so there's always great stuff out there. Mm-hmm. This year, the number of titles, we're not going to have time to go through everything, but I want to bring a few titles to your attention. One of which is getting a lot of interesting buzz right now is called Bouquet, B-O-K-E-T. Mm-hmm. It stars Micah Monroe and Matt O'Leary. When a couple on vacation in Ireland wake up to find that everyone has disappeared. Iceland? Oh, yeah, it is Iceland. Sorry, my glasses are not working right. To find everyone has disappeared, they begin to question everything they know about themselves and the world. I like both of these performers a lot. Mm-hmm. Matt was in. I've been watching Matt since he was in Brick about 10 years ago, and Micah was on our Rising Stars honors a few years ago.
Yeah,
both of them are very. I can see them being a very attractive couple, so this is going to be very fun to watch.
One of the ones I'm interested in is The Cat That Changed America.
This is already getting buzz too.
Yeah, which is also from the United States. This documentary explores the plight of P-22, a celebrated mountain lion in Los Angeles who became trapped in Griffin Park after crossing two of the busiest freeways in North America, the 405 and the 101.
I can't even imagine what that poor cat must have been going through.
Oh, I know. My heart just breaks. That poor animal.
It's nuts, yeah. The Cradle of Champions from director Barty Bull. Heroes, Dreams, Heartbreak, and Redemption. The 3-month urban odyssey of the New York Golden Gloves, the world's largest, oldest, most professional amateur... 3-month urban odyssey? Okay, that seems kind of weird. It's the story of the Golden Gloves tournament, mm-hmm. and during one particular year, I apparently think. But it sounds interesting to me, and it's also a title that's getting a little buzz from me.
There's one that I think you'd be interested in, simply because you've probably heard of this band, and I have no idea.
Too, but you don't.
I don't know who they are.
I
don't. I've been racking my brains. I don't know who they are.
The movie is every 40 years. Go ahead.
Every 40 years is the story of Gun Hill Road returning to music after 40 years after breaking the Billboard Top 40 charts. Every 40 years is about second chances and the power of chasing your dreams one more time. I'm sorry, I have no idea who this is.
We saw a great documentary similar to this last year. Texas... Sir Douglas and the Texas Genuine Texas Groove, which was about that's terrible. The Sir Douglas Quintet, the gentleman that led that band. Gun Hill Road had one top 40 hit in 1972 called "Back When My Hair Was Short," and Dr. Demento used to play that song, so you probably have heard it and you don't realize it.
Maybe
it's actually on the computer in my collection. And I saw this and I'm like, you are kidding me.
This is a band, right?
It is a band.
A person.
If I'm not mistaken,
okay.
I thought they were from Canada. I might be wrong. They might be from America. But I mean, they had.
I'm sorry.
It was the only hit they had.
I was sitting here reading the thing, and I'm like, well, he'll know who it is because I have no friggin' clue.
Because I have all the music trivia in my head. Yeah, I know. Yeah. I can't. I reached over here and grabbed my book and tell you where it peaked. I think it hit number 34 on the chart. It wasn't a huge hit, but it was on the radio. This one is going to freak people out, and it actually, I think it's already been accepted to show again at another festival next month. The gateway bug. Over 2 billion people on Earth currently use insects for protein. The gateway bug explores how changing daily eating habits can feed humanity in an uncertain age, one meal at a time. Yes, it's about eating bugs.
So it's How to Eat Fried Worms, the documentary. No, I'm being flip. I'm sorry. I'm being flip.
We're not trying to put to Joanna B. Kelly, who directed it.
No, we're not.
This is actually another one that I've heard a little bit of word of mouth about, and this is actually a subject that's come up on a number of different documentaries in the last year.
Yeah, but boy, the concession stands are going to suffer when this bad
I don't
boy's
want to
playing.
have ladybugs with my popcorn. Thank you. That's icky.
Well, I know that, people, I've seen, people talking about eating crickets and, stuff like that, and there's a lot of protein in them, and I know a lot of, people, the indigenous people in Africa that live out in the bush and stuff like that, they eat, like, grubs and things like that. And, food's got to come from somewhere.
I know. Can you give us Grass Stains?
Yes, I can. Grass Stains is a drama from the United States. The cast includes Caitlin Dever, Pablo Schreiber, whom I know from Law & Order Special Victims Unit, and he scares the hell out of me. He scared the hell out of me on that show. And Subject Cinema rising star Ty Sheridan.
One of our favorites, yeah.
Yep. A teenager must balance the emotions as he feels falling in love with the first time with the guilt he holds for the death of his girlfriend's older brother in a prank gone awry.
This is another one I've been following during the filming because of Ty's involvement. Ty's been picking some questionable stuff lately, but he's on right now. He's got a movie that's out in theaters and on video on demand called Detour. He is at Sundance also. We'll talk about that movie in a minute. And Grass Stains at Santa Barbara. So there's all kinds of good stuff coming from him, and he's always worth seeing because he's just an amazing young actor. John D. Adlinson, King of the Underdogs, might be of interest to film fans. Adlinson was one of the biggest producers of the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and a director also, directing The Karate Kid, Rocky, Save the Tiger, and a whole bunch of other great films. And this one I can't wait to see because it's talking with the director of The Karate Kid, one of my all-time favorite movies. So that one's going to be fun.
Something that caught my attention, animal person that I am,
I knew that would get you.
An Australian film called Kangaroo. A documentary that reveals the unsettling truth about Australia's love-hate relationship with its beloved icon and uncovers the largest mass destruction of wildlife anywhere in the world.
Now, I have to be honest with you. From what I've seen online from checking this out, this is the kangaroo version of David's and Goliath. So you're going to have to be able to sit through this.
Or the kangaroo version of The Cove.
Or The Cove. Yeah, well, that too. Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah, this might be one of these Kim cries till Kim throws up movies.
Oh, please. Could we not gross out our listeners like that, please? Honestly.
This sounds interesting because I've never heard of this. Liberty in a Soup, which is a co-production between the United States and Haiti.
We're always good for foodie documentaries.
We are very good for foodie docs. You can look
Except
at us
for Ants on a Shrimp, which we were both kind of repulsed
You can look at us and tell we like our foodies. Every New Year, a celebration of Independence Day, Haitian families feast on, I'm going to mess this up.
Jouanu.
I think it's Jumu.
Jumu? Oh, sorry, yeah. It looks like there was a U-R-N. It's J-O-U-M, sorry. Jumu.
Jumu, I would guess. If I'm messing that up, I'm really sorry. It's a type of soup. The soup represents war and victory, oppression and freedom, and the celebratory traditions of Haitian culture. I think that sounds fascinating.
It does.
Simply because I've never really
that.
looked into stuff like that, and I think that would be broadening our horizon myself.
Mabel Tiger Trainer, directed by Leslie Zemeckis, who I believe is related to Robert, I'm not sure. The story of Mabel Stark, the world's first female tiger trainer, who claimed her love for her tigers was so great that she wanted to die in the ring. I'm sorry. I would think you would not want to die in the ring. That you would want to live and continue to perform the way you're doing.
Yeah, I don't. There are.
That's kind of scary.
There are less unpleasant ways to go than being attacked by a tiger, I would assume.
Oh, I would think so.
Let's keep going here. September 12th, which is another film from America. The cast includes Joe Purdy, Amber Rubarth, and Krisha Fairchild. Two strangers, both folk musicians stranded in California, take a road trip to New York in the days after 9/11. A story about the kindness of strangers and the power of music.
This sounds really similar to a film that came out about 5 years ago, and I've forgotten the title of it, but it was Melissa Leo was the star of it, and a young actor that I don't think has done anything else, about a stewardess after the planes were grounded that was struggling to get one of her young passengers back to his parents in New York from, like, Phoenix with no way to get there. And this sounds very similar to that. It sounds like it's going to be interesting. There's, as we said, all of these are world premieres that we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
Finally, there is. I don't know. You want to talk about the monkey one, the Velvet Forest?
Where are you?
It's in the V's. Go down.
I haven't. Okay. Before we get to that, real quick, I'd like to bring up one other drama.
Okay.
It's called Sleepwalker from the United States.
Okay. Yeah.
Cast including Richard Armitage. Yay. Kevin Zegers.
You're not in love with Richard Armitage. You're in love with Thorin Oakenshield. You got to get it right, okay?
I will neither confirm nor deny this.
I notice you haven't watched Into the Storm with me.
Well, no.
Okay.
And the cast also includes Kevin Zegers, I don't know how you say your name.
Yeah.
Haley Joel Osment, Isabella Scoruppo, and Ahana O'Reilly. A woman reconstructs her life after the apparent suicide of her novelist husband, but is met with terrifying and frequent bouts of sleepwalking. So that sounds scary. The Velvet Forest is
Check it again. It's Vervet Forest.
I do apologize. The Vervet Forest, that's what happens when I look at something too fast, which is a co-production of the United States and South Africa. It is the story of 5 orphaned baby monkeys in South Africa and the struggle to save their home.
Yeah,
oh boy.
You're
Tissues
always,
to that one.
Yeah, you're always a sucker for stuff like that.
I
There
am.
are a ton of great U.S. premieres coming straight to Santa Barbara this year. I'm not going to go over everything there because, there's like 20 of them that look really interesting, and we don't have the time to get through everything. But it's like, I do want to point out that they do have some great sections. They do have the documentary section, which includes some of the films we've talked about here. The independent section, which includes Bokeh and a number of other ones. I think that's how that's pronounced, Bokeh.
I don't know.
I actually have a video system that uses something called Bokeh with that spelling, so I'm not sure why that is, but that sounds interesting to me. But one of the things that I love about Santa Barbara is they come up with these oddball sidebars. They're going Nordic this year. They go to a different country every year. They are showing the U.S. and world premieres of several films from the Norwegian countries, and they are also doing social justice documentaries. But as I said earlier, Spanish, Latin America. But my favorite sidebar is Above and Beyond every year. This is the sidebar that features surfing, and occasionally we'll have BMX or skateboarding involved. This year they are all surfing films. But it's like Bunker 77, which features some of the greatest surfer/skateboarders of all time in it. About Laird Hamilton, Tony Alva, Johnny Knoxville, Craig Stesick, the photographer. I can't wait to see this. Bunker 77 people, if you're out there, I need a screener link. ASAP, because I'm really wanting to see that. And there's also the kids bar, which they show some really popular kids movies in the last year. They call it Apple Box, and the 3 features they're shooting this year are they're not all up for Oscar. Finding Dory won the People's Choice Award, but didn't get an Oscar nomination. But Moana and Zootopia did. So.
I'd like to bring up. It's like, look, the kids features that we've all seen. That we don't have any kids.
Well, we don't need kids to be kids at heart.
No, that's true.
Especially when it comes to great animation, and all 3 of those films are top notch.
I have the heart of a 12-year-old girl. I keep it in my purse. No, I'm just kidding.
No, that's where Fred is.
It's a joke.
Fred the purse duck is in your purse.
That is a joke for any law enforcement officials that might be listening.
Okay.
There's also another sidebar that I thought you might want to bring up.
Okay.
The Screen Cuisine.
Oh, yeah, they do. They also do food stuff, don't they?
Yeah.
I can't even find it here. What are the titles this year?
The titles are they're documentaries and narratives. There's
I got it here.
I'm going to mess this up. Aaron Gyarzi, which is Pizza and the Art of Living.
That's a narrative.
A narrative Italian and American co-production. There's Cafe Negler, which is a German and Israeli co-production. I believe it's a documentary.
That looks like a documentary. Ella Brennan, Commanding a Table, the documentary about the iconic Commander's Palace. which is the restaurant. Isn't that the one owned by Emeril Lagasse? Because
I believe so. It's in New Orleans.
Yeah, and we talked about the Gateway
Bug. There's also Island Earth, which is another documentary, a revealing documentary that follows the lives of native Hawaiians to explore the realities of a food supply that are increasingly controlled by large corporate interests.
Yeah, Jeremiah Tower biopic and exploration of his culinary effect on the culinary world. Other titles: Liberty and Soof 2, SOOF 2, which is a sequel, I assume, narrative, and Theater of Life, which is about a soup kitchen in Milan. Santa Barbara has some terrific stuff, and we'll have a bigger list up at some point of what they've got, and we know that you will get a kick out of seeing a lot of these films.
Yep.
Santa Barbara, if you see it, if you're reading on IndieWire, I don't know if you guys do this or not, but we keep lists of films we see in magazines and festivals, so we can keep an eye out for them. Mm-hmm. If it's got the words Selection Santa Barbara Film Festival, even if you've never heard of it, you can probably safely put it on your watch list because they are super picky about what they bring in. Yeah. So it's like Can I just jump in real quick? Absolutely.
Jumping back to the food documentaries and stuff like that, just for a minute. If you see a food documentary and you think, well, I wouldn't be interested in that because I don't like this kind of food, give yourself a chance. Because we've been to some food documentaries that I've been like, well, I'm not really into that kind of food. I'm going to be bored. But I saw it and I was like, wow, this is really interesting.
You loved Steak Revolution.
Yeah.
You like beef, but you prefer hamburger over steak.
Yep.
And Steak Revolution made my Baker's Dozen last year. That was a great film.
Yeah. You're not
and
a
it
sushi,
premiered 2 years ago at Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
So
you're not a sushi person, but we went to see Euro Dreams of Sushi.
Sushi's
and
awesome.
Yeah,
I do not like sushi at all, but that movie is awesome.
I love it. But like I said, if you see a food documentary and you're thinking, well, I don't like that kind of food, so this may not be for me, give it a chance, because you might still come out of it going, well, I still don't like that kind of food, but damn, they made that look good.
The only I got to be totally honest, the only foodie documentary that's ever turned me off was Ants on a Shrimp. I did not. I thought that was going to be a really fascinating film because it's about the Norwegian, the guy that Daniel, what's his name, and runs the thing in Copenhagen, and he went to Tokyo for a 3-month period
with his whole staff.
And I thought this was going to be gross, but they're not kidding. They are putting ants on shrimps.
Yeah.
Shrimp. Sorry, shrimp is plural.
Yep.
I hate it when Lydia Bastianich says shrimps all the time.
I mean, I have to be honest. I got up and left. We saw this at home.
She couldn't make it past the halfway mark.
I was like, that's it. I quit.
She was getting grossed out. I sat through the whole thing, and I was not impressed. And it was a Sundance premiere last year.
Yeah.
And speaking of Sundance, we are on our way to Park City for the first of several segments all about the granddaddy of the festivals in January, the Sundance Film Festival.
When Subject Cinema returns, please don't go away. We'll be right back.
Subject Cinema.
Alright guys, so we need to record our top 3 reasons why you should listen to French Toast Sunday podcast.
Number 3 should definitely be our diverse opinions.
Number 2 should probably be our top 3 lists that we do every week.
No, it's gotta be Mark Wahlberg.
What about Gwyneth Paltrow's head?
It's gotta be Fighting the Sadness in the Swamp of Sadness.
Full Frontal.
Stories about being lost at sea.
Brendan Fraser being underground.
Helen Mirren's boobs.
Baltimore accents as heard in The Wire.
Wunderklaus. Crepes. Character studies.
Wait, guys. What about movies?
Tree rape.
Tree rape? Yeah, I like tree rape.
Tune in every Friday for a new episode of French Toast Sunday podcast, brought to you by us at FrenchToastSunday.com.
Clothing made out of Burger King wrappers.
T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown. Real movies for real people. Subject Cinema.
Welcome back to our Festival of Film Festivals here on Subject Cinema, and we're glad you're with us. I'm Kim Brown.
I'm T.C. Kirkham, and we are up to Sundance this year.
Yep.
We're going to spend several segments on it, or a couple, maybe a longer regular one segment, because there is so much going on. Mm-hmm. We'll have the winners for you at the end of the segment, too, because it concluded as we're recording this last night. So it's a lot of great stuff. Just want to say real quick, I just pulled up Back When My Hair Was Short for Kim. She still doesn't remember it.
Nope.
It's on Spotify if you want to check out that Gun Hill Road song.
Total blank.
Spotify has it as Gun Hill Road, 2 separate words. It's not.
That's really embarrassing because I can usually remember stuff, but that one I have never heard that song in my life.
Sundance is the festival to get into. You are always looking to get into this one in the early circuit, and this is where, like I said, about 60% of the big films that will get a lot of attention come Oscar time. Chances are good that they started at Sundance.
Mm-hmm.
There were 16 narrative premieres this year, as usual, all of them vying for the prizes that they give out. We ran down, I believe, the entire list of these about 6 weeks ago on the show, so I'm not going to run down all of them right now, but I am going to bring some of them to your attention because the buzz has been incredible on some of them. Beach Rats from director Eliza Hittman, about an aimless teenager on the outer edges of Brooklyn, struggling to escape his bleak home life and navigate questions of self-identity, balancing time between delinquent friends, a girlfriend, and an older man he meets online. There's also Brigsby Bear.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Brigsby Bear Adventures is a children's TV show produced for an audience of one, James. When the show abruptly ends, James's life changes forever, and he sets out to finish the story himself. The cast includes Kyle Mooney, Claire Danes, Mark Hamill, totally the reason Kim is interested in this movie.
Yes.
Greg Kinnear, I'm shallow, I don't care. Matt Walsh, Michaela Watkins, and it is a world premiere, and it is a USA production.
Yeah. I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore has been buzzed as it's perhaps the biggest buzzed film of the festival this year.
Mm-hmm.
From director and screenwriter Macon Blair, who was the star of Jeremy Saulnier's hit Blue Ruin a couple years ago. When a depressed woman is burglarized, she finds a new sense of purpose by tracking down the thieves alongside her obnoxious neighbor, but they soon find themselves dangerously out of their depth against a pack of degenerate criminals. Starring Melanie Linsky, Elijah Wood, Jane Levy, David Yao, and Devin Gray. This thing has been getting unbelievable reviews,
Mm-hmm.
and it is they have a big love affair with Jeremy Saulnier and Macon Blair at Sundance. They have really, really taken to them lately.
Also at Sundance this year is Ingrid Goes West, directed by Matt Spicer, written by Matt Spicer and David Branson Smith. A young woman becomes obsessed with an Instagram lifestyle blogger and moves to Los Angeles to try and befriend her in real life, because that always works out well. The cast includes Aubrey Plaza, Elizabeth Olsen, O'Shea Jackson Jr., Wyatt Russell, and Billy Manguson.
Patty Cakes, with a $sign as the S at the end. From director and screenwriter Jeremy Gasper. Straight out of Jersey comes Patricia Dombrowski, a.k.a. Killa P, a.k.a. Patty Cakes, an aspiring rapper fighting through a world of strip malls and strip clubs on an unlikely quest for glory. Starring Danielle McDonald, Bridget Everett, Siddharth Dejane, Mama Odu, I think that is, Kathy Moriarty. This also, the buzz on this has been incredible. It's been huge the last couple of days.
There's also To the Bone. In a last-ditch effort to battle her severe anorexia, 20-year-old Ellen enters a group recovery home. With the help of an unconventional doctor, Ellen and the other residents go on a sometimes funny, sometimes harrowing journey that leads to the ultimate question, is life worth living? The cast includes Lily Collins, Keanu Reeves, who was playing the doctor, so that's going to be really interesting, Carrie Preston, Lily Taylor, Alex Sharp, and Liana Librato.
Why do you say really interesting?
Well, because
he's played a doctor before.
When?
In the movie with Jack Nicholson. Where he's is as good as it gets, where he's the doctor competing with Nicholson for the woman in the movie. I've forgotten which film that was. We didn't see it.
I don't think that's the one you're talking about.
No, I don't.
But well, it's just so many people are used to Keanu in action roles, and the Matrix
now
stuff.
They are, yeah.
The Matrix stuff, and the fact that the first John Wick film was such a roaring success that they wound up making John Wick Chapter 2.
Yeah.
Seeing him in something like this, I think, will be really interesting, because I think he's a very underrated actor.
He is. He's a terrific actor, and he still looks fantastic.
He does.
The Yellow Birds is the film that Ty Sheridan has at Sundance this year. 2 young men enlist in the Army and are deployed to fight in the Iraq War. After an unthinkable tragedy, the returning soldier struggles to balance his promise of silence with the truth and a mourning mother's search for peace. Also starring Jack Houston, future Han Solo, Alden Ehrenreich, and Jason Patric, Toni Collette, and Jennifer Aniston. It did not get the kind of stellar reviews that they were hoping for. Got some middling reviews, but until then, its buzz was really good. The documentary side is equally as good. They've got some interesting stuff there. The one that's talked about most, and I'm sorry, I don't know why this is suddenly back in a big way, the JonBenet Ramsey story. Casting JonBenet from director Kitty Green, the unsolved death of 6-year-old American beauty queen JonBenet Ramsey remains the world's most sensational child murder case. Over 15 months, responses, reflections, and performances were elicited from the Ramsey's Colorado hometown community, creating a bold work of art from the collective memories and mythologies that the crime inspired. There have been 2 TV miniseries about it already, with a third on the way.
Yeah.
And one of the miniseries has got her brother suing them for implicating him in her death.
Well, I think that's why it's become so, it's become so much more in the public eye again, because wasn't this just past year that they came out with a new expose about who really killed JonBenet?
Well, they do that every 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
it's like, okay.
No, that is true. Also coming out in the documentary section is Dolores, which is directed by Peter Bratt. Dolores Huerta bucks 1950s gender conventions by co-founding the country's first farm workers union. Wrestling with raising 11 children, gender bias, union defeat and victory, and nearly dying after a San Francisco police beating, Dolores emerges with a vision that connects her newfound feminism with racial and class justice.
One of the most important films, I think, as a journalist on the podcast, that everybody is going to need to watch when it comes on, and it will be premiering. I think Netflix bought it. Nobody Speak: Hulk Hogan, Gawker, and the Trials of a Free Press, from director Brian Knappenberger. The trial between wrestler Hulk Hogan and Gawker Media pitted privacy rights against freedom of the press and raised important questions about how big money, in this case entrepreneur Peter Thiel, can silence media. The film is an examination of the perils and duties of the free press in an age of inequality. This case is on the verge of destroying the freedom of the press, and it needs to be overturned by the Supreme Court, and there's all kinds of stuff going on with it still. Gawker settled out of court, but that doesn't mean that it's going to. They finally had no choice. They declared bankruptcy and sold their company to another company, and Thiel continues to bankroll a lawyer doing other cases that are really similar to this. And if you want to follow the full story on this story and what's going on with them, techdirt.com covers it in depth, and it's really an important story that everybody needs to see. And I know, personally speaking, you will never get me to watch Hulk Hogan in anything ever again. Ever again.
Okay. A film that is guaranteed to piss people off, no matter on what side of the line you are, is Trophy. Directed by Schwal. I hope I said that right.
I think you did.
Schwal. Sorry. Schwartz. Co-director Christina Clouseau, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
I'm terribly sorry.
The names are tough. Yeah.
When your last name is Brown, everything else is just...
It does. It makes it much easier, doesn't it?
Seriously. Everything else is just all Scrabble tiles.
Everybody say it together. Mahershala Ali.
Yeah. It took you how long to learn that?
Yep.
Trophy is a documentary about the in-depth look into the powerhouse industries of big game hunting, breeding, and wildlife conservation in the U.S. and Africa. It unravels the complex consequences of treating animals as commodities.
Okay. I've already told Kim she has not seen this film.
Nope.
I saw an in-depth article on it on one of the, I think it was IndieWire, it may have been Variety, I'm not sure, it was one of the online sites, and I'm looking at this and I'm reading through it and I'm near vomiting. and you will not be able to handle this film. I want to see it myself,
It's
but you
really,
are not going to be able to handle it.
really sad because I can sit there and watch horror movie after horror movie and see people get,
But that's not the same thing because those are fiction and you know it.
Yeah, I know, but still,
and these are realities.
I can see people get chopped up into deli meat and I don't blink an eye. Somebody steps on an ant and I need to go lie down.
Getting out of the world premieres for a minute, I'm just going to go through and bring up a few things that have popped out over the last couple of weeks where I've seen people talking about it. Joshua, Teenager versus Superpower. When the Chinese Communist Party backtracks on its promise of autonomy to Hong Kong teenager Joshua Wong, to Hong Kong, sorry. Let me try that again. When the Chinese Communist Party backtracks on its promise of autonomy to Hong Kong, teenager Joshua Wong decides to save his city, rallying thousands of kids to skip school and occupy the streets. Joshua becomes an unlikely leader in Hong Kong and one of China's most notorious dissidents. This film has been bought by Netflix and will pop up later this spring. Go, man, dude, you are gutsy. Yeah. Anybody in China that does this is gutsy because I don't know. Considering the fact that if you say one thing out of turn over there, you could disappear and never be found again. Yeah, and that's terrible. The way, and it's gotten even worse in the last 2 or 3 years since the latest people were elected. The newer leaders have really cracked down on stuff like that. One film that I'd like to bring up is a co-production between the United Kingdom and Canada. It's called Tokyo Idols, directed by Kyoko Miyake. This exploration of Japan's fascination with girl bands and their music follows an aspiring pop singer and her fans, delving into the cultural obsession with young female sexuality and the growing disconnect between men and women in hyper-modern societies. I thought that one would attract your attention, because that sounds like it's going to be fun. Because people talk about the American music system and the way they chew young kids up and spit them out when it comes to pop stars. Yeah. They have nothing on what happens in Japan. Or Korea. They're both with the whole crazy idol singer thing. Rumble, the Indians Who Rock the World from Canada, from director Catherine Bainbridge. Powerful documentary about the role of Native Americans in contemporary music history, featuring some of the greatest music stars of our time, and it exposes a critical missing chapter revealing how indigenous musicians helped create the soundtracks of our lives and through their contributions influenced popular culture. I'm a sucker for good music documentaries, and people don't realize how many musicians out there really do have Native American or Native Canadian in them. There's a lot of them, and you really don't recognize it if they don't bring it up. I mean, there are people that always did, like the rock group Redbone in the 70s were all Native American, and they had a big hit with Come and Get Your Love, and Leon Redbone is related to them in some way. I don't remember how. Right. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. It's really surprising when you find out a lot of country people in the country music industry have a lot of Native American in their background and some of that. And I always find it interesting that a lot of them, I don't know if I want to say they were ashamed of it. I wouldn't dare say something like that. But they don't seem to talk about it very much. And I've always been like, why? That's a rich, beautiful culture. A lot of them that I know of do embrace it. There are a few that don't, but I don't know. Sundance also has some great sidebars. Next is their forward-thinking approaching to storytelling. They're quite oddball. These are the ones that are fringe, and if they were a little more fringe, they would probably be at Slamdance. Some of them get a little bit crazy, but a lot of them do have interesting casts. There's Devon from the USA, director Aman Abbasi. In the wake of his older brother's death, 13-year-old Devon spends the sweltering summer days roaming his rural Arkansas town. When he falls in with a local gang, he becomes drawn into the camaraderie and violence of their world. This was an opening night film, too. There is also Deidre and Lainey rob a train. Guess the truth in advertising people struck again. It is a film from the United States directed by Sidney Freeland, screenwriter Shelby Farrell. Two teenage sisters start robbing trains to make ends meet after their single mother's emotional meltdown after their single mother's emotional meltdown in an electronics store lands her in jail. The cast includes Ashley Murray, Rachel Crow, Tim Blake Nelson, David Sullivan, Danielle Nicolette, and Shashir Zamata. Once again, one of the kings of Sundance is here with more than one film. The first one up for Michael Cera this year is Lemon. A man watches his life unravel as he's left by his blind girlfriend. This also stars Brett Gelman, Judy Greer, Nia Long, Shuri Appleby, Fred Melamed. And he's also on hand in Person to Person. A record collector hustles for a big score while his heartbroken roommate tries to erase a terrible mistake. A teenager bears witness to her best friend's new relationship, and a rookie reporter alongside her demanding supervisor chases the clues of a murder case involving a life-weary clock shop owner. It's all little vignettes from what I've gathered. Abby Jacobson, Michael Cera, Tabby Gevinson, Philip Baker Hall, Benny Cooper-Smith, and George Sample III. Another movie that is getting talked about, and for all the right reasons and all the wrong reasons, is Thoroughbred. The right reasons is because it's a good movie. The wrong reason is it's one of two films that Anton Yelchin finished before passing away last year that is here. And I wish they'd stop emphasizing that. I don't think Anton would want that emphasized. He was just a loving, working actor and would not want them to, I feel like they're exploiting the fact that he passed away last year. But Thoroughbred is getting rave reviews. Two teenage girls in suburban Connecticut rekindle their unlikely friendship after years of growing apart. In the process, they learn that neither is what she seems to be and that a murder might solve both of their problems. The girls, played by Olivia Cooke of Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, and Anya Taylor-Joy of The Witch. Anton is their drug dealer. They draw into this little scheme, along with Paul Sparks, Francie Swift, Callie Vernoff, and Corey Fenley is the writer and director, and it is getting really good buzz, and more so for the performances, thankfully, than the fact that Anton is not with us anymore.
There are a lot of great premieres at Sundance as well every year, and there's some really good ones this year as well, including Beatriz at Dinner, directed by Miguel Arteta. Beatriz, a immigrant from a poor town in Mexico, has drawn on her innate kindness to build a career as a health practitioner. Doug Strutt is a cutthroat, self-satisfied billionaire. When these two opposites meet at a dinner party, their worlds collide and neither will ever be the same. The cast includes Selma Hayek and John Lithgow. That sounds really, really good.
Yeah, when you talk about a killer cast, this one has got me, and it's called Before I Fall. Director Rai Russo Young from the USA. Samantha Kingston has everything, then everything changes. After one fateful night, she wakes up with no future at all. Trapped into reliving the same day over and over, she begins to question just how perfect her life really was. Zoe Deutsch, Halston Sage, Logan Miller, Diego Boneta. They have got some of the top young stars out here. I mean, I love Zoe Deutsch is just starting to get attention, but Halston Sage, I've loved her since she did Paper Towns, and she did Scouts vs. Zombies, or whatever the name of it was. Scouts Guide
to the Zombie Apocalypse.
Yeah. And Logan Miller was in that with her, too, playing her younger brother. So I hope they're not playing like boyfriend and girlfriend or something in this movie. That would be kind of icky.
This one is probably going to tick a lot of people off, I have a feeling.
It's also the biggest seller of the entire festival, if you're talking about The Big Sick.
No. Actually.
Okay.
Well, would you like to talk about that first? Or?
The Big Sick is this year's big buy at the festival. Based on the real-life courtship between comedian Numali Nanjiani, who is a regular on HBO's Silicon Valley, and his girlfriend, grad student Emily. They fall in love but struggle as their cultures clash, and when Emily contracts a mysterious illness, Kumali must navigate the crisis with her parents and the emotional tug-of-war between his family and his heart. He stars as himself, along with Zoe Kazan, one of the most underrated actresses on the planet, who we adore, Holly Hunter, Ray Romano, and Anupam Kher. It was the big, as I said, I think it got the most money of all the sales at Sundance, and probably will be aimed at that critical Oscar calendar time later on this year.
The film I was actually talking about is a film from the United States called Discovery, directed by Charlie McDowell, also written by Charlie McDowell and Justin Lader, or later, I'm not sure. In a world where the afterlife has just been scientifically proven, resulting in millions of people taking their own lives to get there, comes this love story. The cast includes Jason Segel, Rooney Mara, Robert Redford, and Jesse Plemons, Riley Keough, and Ron Canada.
Charlie McDowell. I don't know who you are. Didn't you learn anything? Suicides do not go to the afterlife; they go to suicide land. Wrist Cutters Sundance 10 years ago this year. Come on. If you kill yourself, you're not going to go to heaven. You're going to go somewhere else.
No, that's not what I meant, and you know it, but that's all right. Anyway.
What you meant, I was talking what they're talking about.
I know, but anyway. Going on. Let's see. What other things have we got here? That would include... You go next. Sorry.
That's okay. Mudbound is getting some word of mouth. In the post-World War II South, two families are pitted against a barbaric social hierarchy and an unrelenting landscape as they simultaneously fight the battle at home and abroad. This epic pioneer story is about friendship, heritage, and the unending struggle for and against the land, featuring what is already being called an Oscar nomination performance from Mary J. Blige, along with Carey Mulligan, Jason Clarke, Jason Mitchell, Garrett Hedlund, and Jonathan Banks. It's going to be a tough one. It's directed by Dee Rees.
Okay. I had never heard of this movie until we started doing this research for this for Sundance. Mm. And I'm sorry, the idea that this word is about to come out of my mouth is just going against everything that a little metalhead like me was ever brought up with.
It's a shame I don't like part of the cast. So
The Polka King. Oh, that just felt wrong to say. Directed by Maya Forbes, screenwriter, also Maya Forbes, and Wally Wolodarski. Based on, and I hope I said that right, based on the remarkable true story of the world's only known polka Ponzi scheme. That just sounds wrong coming out of my mouth. This mix of comedy and tragedy is about John Lewan, a Polish immigrant who believed in the American dream. But with big dreams came big mistakes for the man who became the king of Pennsylvania polka.
The sad thing is, two of the people in this movie I can't stand, and the roles aren't right. And I don't know if these are going to be good, but Jack Black, Jenny Slate, Jason Schwartzman, Jackie Weaver, that's a saving grace right there, and J.B. Smoove.
I just said polka 3 times in one,
You're a Weird Al fan. You should be used to polka music.
Oh, I gotta rinse my mouth out now.
Rememory is the second Anton Yelchin film here at Sundance. A visionary inventor found dead, a machine that can record people's memories, a man haunted by the past. This noir mystery explores the ways in which memory defines the present. With Peter Dinklage, Juliette Ormond, Martin Donovan, Anton Yelchin, Henry Ian Cusack, and Evelyn Brochu. Also, pretty good reviews coming out for that last week.
There is Sydney Hall was also at Sundance this year, directed by Sean Christensen, screenwritten by Sean Christensen and Jason Dolan. Over the course of 12 years and 3 stages of his life, Sydney Hall falls in love, writes a book about a generation, and then disappears without a trace. The cast includes Logan Lerman, which is why we're interested, Elle Fanning, which is also why we're interested, Kyle Chandler, Michelle Monaghan, Nathan Lane, and Margaret Qualley.
I have to admit, this is not getting the best of reviews. Kate Erbland, who is one of the top people over at IndieWire, and I love reading her stuff, man, she can't find anything she liked at Sundance. She was the highest thing she's given the whole week that I saw was a B-. This got a D. So it's like, okay, it's Logan. How could you possibly get a D out of Logan?
I know.
Logan is a tremendously talented actor. I'm like, okay. Wilson, I'm actually tempted to say the better, less said about the better, but it's gotten such quirky people talking about it in a quirky way. Wilson is a lonely and neurotic and honestly and hilariously honest middle-aged misanthrope. He reunites with his estranged wife and gets a shot at happiness when he learns he has a teenage daughter he's never met. In a uniquely outrageous and slightly twisted way, he sets out to connect with her. Movie stars Woody Harrelson in the title role. He also produced Laura Dern and Judy Greer. It sounds to me like a kind of American-skewed version of the German comedy that is everybody's raving about, Tony Erdmann. I don't know. It's like, we'll see.
Finally, there is Wind River, directed and written for the screen by Taylor Sheridan. An FBI agent teams with the town's veteran game tracker to investigate a murder that occurred on a Native American reservation. The cast includes Jeremy Renner, Elizabeth Olsen, and John Bernthal. So it's pretty much a whole bunch of Marvel people, which is just awesome.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That is nuts. I love it.
No, that's all in the premieres section. And then you get into, well, there's some documentaries too that you might want to keep an eye out for. The one that's really got people buzzing is the documentary about Oklahoma City, the Murrah bombing, and Timothy McVeigh. So that could be interesting. The midnight section is always one big thing. Usually comes out of the midnight section, but this year there could be two. One of them is 7852. It is a documentary that is all about one scene from a movie.
Yeah, but it's one of the most famous scenes from one of the most iconic movies ever.
Yep.
It is about the shower scene from Alfred Hitchcock's classic thriller Psycho. And I can't wait to see this. Psycho is one of my favorite films for its shot, the way it was shot, the way it was done, the groundbreakingness of it. And some people might be like, an entire film about one scene? Are you crazy?
Yeah.
Not that scene.
I vowed to see Psycho this year, so I want to see it before we see this film because it sounds interesting. The other one had amazingly interesting buzz the other night. It is called Kuzo. I brought this up a few weeks ago when we first went through these when they were first announced.
I think it's Kuzo.
Kuzo? Oh, Kuzo. You're right. I'm sorry. Directed by Steven Ellison and written by Ellison, David Firth, and Zach Fox. Broadcasting through a makeshift network of discarded televisions, this story is tangled up in the aftermath of Los Angeles' worst earthquake nightmare. Travel between screens and aftershocks into the twisted lives of the survived. Now, having said that, and being a disaster movie fan, I was like, I can't wait to see this. There is no way in hell you're going to get me to see this film. After what happened when it premiered, and people were leaving, people were puking, people were screaming, and just some of the shots from this film, and the reviewers running down some of what you're looking at. No, sorry, not interested. No. It'll have its audience. This is the kind of movie that will attract the people that love the Human Centipede. I'm like, no.
And these are people we don't want to sit next to in movie theaters because they scare us.
I'm sure it'll be a big hit.
See, when you first talked about this film, I thought, it's a disaster movie.
Yeah, so did I.
That'll be your thing, and that'll be really great.
I thought the premise sounded unique, and then I read the reviews, and I'm like, oh my God, really? No, not interested. I know people that will like it, but I'm not interested.
I would like to bring up one more movie real quick.
Yeah, I got one more too, but those are the two I wanted to spotlight.
It's called XX. It is a all-female horror anthology featuring 4 dark tales from 4 fiercely talented women. Now, we all know
there's that word, anthology. Kim loves anthology movies.
Kim loves anthology movies because Kim has a very short attention span. Ooh, shiny thing. And I'm sorry for you to be able to cram enough into a horror anthology, each story, to make it interesting and make it stick with somebody it's not just all boo, jump scares, and buckets of guts. I think that's a really tough job. So I'm really looking forward to it. The cast includes Natalie Brown, Melanie Linsky, Brita Wool, and Christina Kirk.
So that's the second one.
I've actually heard about this film as well, so I'm really looking forward to it.
There's also Bushwick, which suddenly jumped up on the radar the last couple of days. Lucy emerges from a Brooklyn subway to find that her neighborhood is under attack by black-clad military soldiers. An ex-Marine corpsman named Stupe, S-T-U-P-E, I guess that's how you pronounce it, reluctantly helps her fight for survival through a civil war as Texas attempts to secede from the Union. Now, I don't know where Texas and Brooklyn have anything to do with each other.
I don't either.
But I was stunned to see Dave Bautista on this year's Variety Breakthrough Performers. Bautista's already a star. He's already in Guardians of the Galaxy. He's a well-known WWE personality. And did he do MMA too? He did, didn't he, for a while?
I'm not sure.
And he's a great actor. He's a terrific actor. And he was in the last James Bond film.
Yes, he was Inspector.
He didn't have very many lines.
One.
But he did. But he was in
one line.
He stars in this with Brittany Snow, Angelica Zambrana, Jeremy Harris, Myra Lucretia Taylor, and Arthur Castro. And definitely has my interest because I like Dave. Dave is a really good actor. I really enjoy his performances.
Yeah, for someone that you look at Dave Bautista, and he's this big guy. He's this big, tall, muscular dude. And not that I have a problem with looking at that on screen. Goodness knows I don't. But, people think, oh, somebody like that, they're just a big, dumb chunk of muscle and they can't really act. Dave is actually a very good actor. He conveys a lot, especially in the character of Drax in the Guardians of the Galaxy films.
He's the best part of those movies. I couldn't stand the first one. You guys know that. I was not a big fan of the first one. He had me in freaking stitches. I'm like, oh my Lord, that was funny. When we come back, we're going to run through some of the big buzz at Sundance and all of the sales and the craziness of, in a market which isn't certain because of the recent election and where things are going to go for sure and everything else. Suddenly, it was a feeding, buying frenzy at Sundance, and we're going to cover that next
when Subject Cinema returns.
Good times and great movies. Subject Cinema.
Welcome to the Really Awful Movies podcast, a celebration of low-budget cinema.
Is another apocalyptical prediction about to come true. The winds of death will sweep across the world, and whole continents will be cast adrift in an ocean of blood.
Chris, and along with Jeff, we're bringing you the very best and worst of horror, sci-fi, action, exploitation, kung fu, and women in prison movies from the 1970s to today. Be sure and check out reallyawfulmovies.com for reviews, interviews, lists, and terrific movie giveaways.
Huh?
What?
They want to publish our book.
Oh, that's great news.
And they want to give us an advance.
How much?
$250.
No.
Subject Cinema.
Welcome back to Subject Cinema. I'm T.C. Kirkham.
Hi, I'm Kim Brown.
This is our 11th annual Fethtival, a film festival, Subject Cinema number 555. Please write us with your comments, queries, and lists of films that you think sound interesting from the film festivals. Subject Cinema at PNRNetworks.com. We're talking about Sundance. We read all the premieres a few weeks ago, and we went through some of the big ones a few minutes ago. And I want to get to the list because usually when you're not sure about the economy or when there's been a year where films have been, like, they've laid out all this money for film and it's bombed at the box office, the studios tend to get cold feet for a year or two before coming back slowly.
Right.
Last year was one of those years. The biggest success at Sundance was a film called Birth of a Nation with Nate Parker. They paid, I think, Fox Searchlight, I think they paid $15 million for it. And then the whole scandal broke in late August, early September about Nate's rape conviction or arrest and eventual acquittal in college 15 years ago, and the movie just dove. I mean, it just dove. So Fox Searchlight was out of a lot of money. And it happened with more than one film over the last 2 or 3 years. So it really struck me as crazy that this year has been a feeding frenzy. And it's been largely fueled by Amazon and Netflix. This is from an article on IndieWire, and I want to bring it up. This is from Ann Thompson, the great We're Not Worthy, although I don't always agree with her, Ann Thompson. According to one indie distributor, Sundance 2017's valuations and sales are almost a third higher than last year. Put the same titles into the Sundance market 2 years ago, and they would have sold for far less. That's because Netflix and Amazon, on the narrative side, are dramatically driving up prices. According to one veteran indie CEO, it's just ridiculous what the digital guys are doing to the marketplace. The Big Sick is a great little movie, but it's a $4 million to $6 million buy. There's no logic to this model. The Big Sick sold to Amazon for $12.5 million. They will release it in theaters at awards time this year. And Amazon is playing fair, too. If you haven't noticed, these two online entities that are upending the film festival world and the film world in general, but more festival world, are not playing on the same playing field. Netflix has been releasing their films, in some cases, not all, to limited theaters, like 5, 6, 7 theaters, and putting it on day and date, same day and date on Netflix.
Right.
Amazon is not doing that with all their titles, and that is, and I don't think they ever will after the overwhelming success of Manchester by the Sea. They bought Manchester by the Sea last year for some exorbitant fee. I've forgotten how much they paid for it. I actually had a poll, but Deadline's been down all day, and I can't get up on it. I may have saved the numbers. I'll go look in a minute. Manchester was expected to be a small buy last year, too. Amazon ended up pumping it up toward 20 million somewhere. And then they, unlike Netflix, Jeff Bezos said, we're going to be a theatrical company. We want films in theaters. Amazon rolled it out in late November, and by late December, it was wide release and one of the top films. It's now up for Golden Globes. It won several Golden Globes. It's up for Oscars.
Mm-hmm. Everybody's talking about it.
Yeah, and I mean, never mind the fact that everybody said it's an incredibly hard film to get through, and it's so depressing. The reviews have been outstanding for it, and it's got Casey Affleck. It's got this new kid, Lucas Hedges, who's jumping on everybody's radar. Kyle Chandler, Michelle Williams, this amazing cast, and it was shot here in Manchester, up north from us. And so Amazon is playing fair with the way they're doing things. Now, they are putting stuff directly on Prime, too, the smaller films.
Right.
And a lot of docs. But Netflix doesn't, I don't think they're interested in doing that. And it hurt them with Beasts of No Nation a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. They had hoped to get an Oscar nomination for that, and Abraham Adda did win a Spirit Award for Best Actor. But it got nothing at the Oscars because Netflix put it out day and date, same day it hit theaters. And I mean, the CEOs have a good point. Big Sick, is it going to make $12 million back? For Amazon, yes. If they follow the same pattern that they followed with Manchester by the Sea this year, there is going to be a shot that they can do it. But the Big Sick is also, they've got to come up with an ad campaign that sells this as the kind of quirky dramedy that it is. I'm told it's similar in tone to John Krasinski's film, The Haulers. Mm-hmm. It's comedy with a lot of drama elements.
Right.
And it's got, it's a true story, and he's playing Numal Najani. I don't watch Silicon Valley. I can't pronounce his name. I'm sorry. Is playing himself, basically. He's reliving what happened with his wife. And it sounds intriguing, and I'll go see it because I just love the cast. I mean, Zoe Kazan gets me in right there, but I don't know. The kind of money they're spending is crazy. Netflix is getting... as you said, they're labeling them Netflix originals, Netflix premieres, and some of those are really jumping. But again, there's no Oscar love, no awards love in a lot of the cases, and yet Oscar is rewarding a film, Dr. Evil quotes, a film about O.J. Simpson that's actually a ESPN miniseries and aired on television before it went to theaters.
Right.
Which doesn't seem fair. Okay, so, I mean... You don't follow this as closely as I do. No, I know that.
I would like to bring up, when has Oscars ever cared about fair?
Well, yeah. Well, I don't know if I want to go there or not.
Well, you know I will.
All right, go ahead.
Well, no, I'm just saying. Well, I realize this is a soapbox I have gotten on time and time again. And I know some people are like, oh, God, here she goes. But...
Kim's soapbox.
The intentional bias that the Oscars have shown over the years, the intentional bias they have shown against science fiction, fantasy, horror films is staggering. Mm-hmm. It is just completely staggering. I mean, and I know some people out there will be like, oh, but Return of the King swept so many awards the year it came out. Yes, it did, because if they hadn't, there would have been riots in the streets. Because... the Fellowship of the Ring and the Two Towers, pardon my language, got royally forked over, and everybody knew it. But that's just my own take on it, so, take it where you can.
Ah, good. Deadline's back. I was looking at this article that Deadline put up last week, and it's really kind of telling. They put up a list of last year's purchases at Sundance. and gave the box office for the films. They didn't say what the full gross was, because you can't get that from the online people. But I'm really impressed that some of these are just incredibly crazy. Now, there's only one of these films left to open. A movie called Slight, purchased last year at Sundance, will open April 7th. But you look at the gross here, and so many of them didn't even come close to what... I mean, all of the top... Everything below number 9 made less than $1 million at the box office, and they were probably paid $3, $4, or $5 million for at Sundance.
Right.
But a lot of them are also critically acclaimed. And I mean, you look at Little Men is here at number 10, earned $689,000 at the box office, which is pretty good for an indie film that Magnolia puts out, and they didn't even put it on demand,
no,
which is unusual for Magnolia.
And they didn't do any advertising for it or try and
it's weird because that's
it.
one film Magnolia did not do on demand, and everything else they do, it's almost always same day and date. Of course, my favorite movie, it won my award last year. You look at Manchester by the Sea, which is at number 1. It's earned at this point, which was a week ago, $37.2 million at the box office. So it's earned double what it cost to take the film at Sundance. Birth of a Nation only earned $15.9. It barely made its money back, if that. Then the big surprise, the third biggest grossing of the Sundance films last year, was Southside with You. I don't know how many people actually saw that. It was the comedy fantasy about Barack and Michelle Obama's first date. Got rave reviews. It looked... The trailer was very quirky, very funny. And it earned $6.3 million. I think it sold for like $1 million or $2 million. So there are films that can be successful. And I mean, all of these films have their followers, like I said, but most of them don't make money back after the fact. And so the sales on this year's stuff is really just insane. Let me find I have the full list here. The festival purchases this year are insane. And they're not giving the prices, but more films from Sundance have been sold to companies than have been in the last 4 years, each year. A24 picked up a Ghost Story worldwide rights, which is a horror film. Amazon got Long Strange Trip, The Big Sick, Landline, and Crown Heights. CNN picked up The Trophy. That's the animal movie. And Legion of Brothers. FilmRise picked up Davon. FilmRise is growing. Most people know them as an on-demand service, but they are putting films in theaters now. Focus Features bought the Anton Yelchin film Thoroughbred. Fox Searchlight sticking their neck out again, picking up Patty Cakes and Step, a documentary about step dancers that's gotten rave reviews. Gunpowder and Sky, which is a brand new company that's getting good reviews. They were the distributor of Go North, which I reviewed a couple of weeks ago. Did the Little Hours. Gravitas picked up Legion of Brothers for theatrical and streaming rights. 7852, the Psycho documentary, and Killing Ground both went to IFC Midnight. And then you go, one or two titles. Neon, another small company, bought Beach Rats, another favorite with the critics. And then you go to Netflix. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 titles.
Right.
Holy cripes. They bought Berlin Syndrome, Casting John Bonet, Fun Mom Dinner, Chasing Coral, Nobody Speak, The Incredible Jessica James, Joshua Teenager versus Superpower, Icarus, and To the Bone. All for Netflix.
Yeah.
If any of them come out to the theater, it's going to be Fun Mom Night, which is a narrative. All of the rest of them, I think. Maybe Icarus might be a narrative too. I think the rest of them are all docs. But still, I mean, 9 titles. Netflix bought 9 titles.
Yeah. Well,
over
they're definitely
all the studios.
Yeah, they're definitely taking the attitude that you have to spend money to make money, and whether or not that's a good strategy anymore, I guess looking at their bottom line at this time next year is going to be the only way to tell if it was a good idea or not.
Yeah, Brigsby Bear, the one that you mentioned with Mark Hamill, is Sony Pictures Classics picked this up. They've had terrible luck the last 2 or 3 years. The last film that they hit, at Sundance that actually made money was Animal Kingdom. That's been 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Everything they've picked up since then has come out, and it's gotten sort of good reviews and then dove. And that's what happened. I've forgotten what title it was. It was just out in September or October. And I was like, we got to go see this. It's supposed to be really good, and we never got there, and we missed it, and boom. But they keep busting. Sundance is a very important film festival, and you've got to keep an eye on it, because even though the titles may not do that well at the box office, you should be watching for them when they hit your Netflix or your Amazon, or in other, some cases, some of them might go to Fandor. Some of them hit your local Redbox. Some of them you can find on a smaller service like Crackle.
Mm-hmm.
And they're usually, it's a Sundance film. You can say, hey, I saw a Sundance film, even if it's not that good. And some of them aren't. Let's not kid. The Future sucked. I don't care what the critics said.
No, me neither.
That movie sucked, and it was a big hit at Sundance a few years ago. I'm like, okay, it's worth seeing at least once, and you should always check it out. When we come back, we've got 3 more festivals we want to run down real quickly: Victoria, Big Sky, and Berlinale.
When Subject Cinema returns.
Real movies for real people. Subject Cinema.
You are about to witness history in the making.
Hi there, this is Todd from Forgotten Films, and if you spend all your time watching new releases, then you need to broaden your movie horizons. And a great way to do that is by joining me for the Forgotten Filmcast. We don't talk about the new releases, we don't even talk about the classics. We talk about the movies that time forgot. On each episode, I'm joined by another film blogger to discuss a film that may or may not be worth rediscovering. So look for the Forgotten Filmcast on iTunes, Podomatic, and wherever you find great podcasts.
Hello, I am Baymax, your personal healthcare companion. I was alerted to the need for medical attention when you said, ow.
Subject Cinema!
Welcome back to Subject Cinema. I'm Kim Brown.
I'm T.C. Kirkham. This is our 11th annual Fethtival of Film Festivals. And we're up to Canada's first big one of the year, the Victoria Film Festival. Victoria is, when we first started doing this, we were only doing the big 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started branching out and seeing other film festivals that had really interesting titles. And Victoria is one of them. Now, they end up usually having about half of the films are films from the festival circuit from the past 6 months. So some people have seen them as early as like last April.
Yep.
But they also have some other good films coming in. And as Canada's, there are other great festivals in Canada. Of course, there's the Toronto Film Festival in the fall. But there are also equally good stuff at Whistler. Whistler has a great film festival. Winnipeg has a great film festival. And there's a whole bunch of them. But the Victoria one is always first. And this year is no exception. So we're just going to run down a few of the titles that are popping up at Victoria this year that look interesting.
Yep. Do you want to start or do you want me to?
I'll go with it. The first one on the list is 154. This has actually been listed to me as already being released because I put it on 3 Minute Weekend. So I don't know if it's out yet or not, but it apparently is not out in Canada. The first feature film from director Jan Englund takes us inside a school where the adults have good intentions but are out of touch with some of their students' ongoing tragedies. The movie stars Antoine Olivier Pilon, the star of Xavier Dolan's Mommy, and looks interesting, I have to say.
Okay. Also at Victoria this year is After Love, or the French title L'économie du couple. It is the story of, after 15 years together, Marie and Boris are ending their marriage, but until they can resolve the division of their prize asset, the magazine photo-worthy apartment they share with their young twin daughters, they're still living together.
And you were drawn in by Berenice Bejo here, right?
Yep. Berenice Bejo, the female star of The Artist, and a wonderful French actress. I really want to see this movie.
We have become big fans of director Hirokazu Kurita over the last few years. He did I Wish, and the Clotilda Society for Independent Film loves this guy, and he does some great film. His latest is a thriller/disaster film with drama comedy overtones called After the Storm. Ryota Shinoda was once a successful and well-regarded writer, but these days he's more like his shiftless father before him. Weekdays he works as a sketchy detective, and on weekends he tries to pawn his mother's belongings when she's not looking. She's widowed and doesn't have much money to lose anyway, so she kind of tolerates what he's doing. Then, on the evening of a typhoon, he finds himself stuck with his family, forced together with one more night at his apartments, and it kind of twists and turns from there. I like this guy's style. I like his the way he makes his film look, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing After the Storm. Knowing his track record, it should show up at the Brattle sometime this summer.
Mm-hmm. I'm jumping way down the list here to Free Fire, directed by Ben Wheatley. Bold, breathless, and wickedly fun, Free Fire is an electrifying comedy thriller about an arms deal that goes spectacularly and explosively wrong. Acclaimed filmmaker Ben Wheatley, who did Kill List and High Rise, propels the audience head-on into quite possibly the most epic shootout ever seen on film as he crafts a spectacular parody and biting critique of the insanity of gun violence. Everyone's got a gun, and absolutely nobody is in control.
Okay. Yeah, he did. Ben got a lot of attention for High Rise, which was one of Tom Hiddleston's movies a couple years ago, and it definitely he's worth taking a look at. I'm just going through everything right now too. India in a Day from director Richie Mehta is from last year, so it's making its circuit right through. It is the British Columbia premiere at the Victoria Festival. Is it possible to understand India in just a day? October 10th, 2015 wasn't a particularly meaningful day, not a national holiday or anniversary, had no religious significance, but on this day, through an initiative backed by Google, millions of people across India turned on their cameras and smartphones and recorded their lives and uploaded their footage to a webcam in a service which has now been ruled illegal by the Indian Supreme Court, if you're following that stuff, because it's called a zero rating thing that Netflix was that Facebook was doing, and India has outlawed zero rating in their internet stuff now. So it went away after this, but Zuckerberg is trying to bring it back. I don't know if it's come back in its full, but I thought that sounds interesting because it's all over the country in one day.
Yeah,
all the different stuff, the cultures would be interesting.
A documentary that sounds really, really interesting. I called him Morgan, directed by Casper Collin. Cited by his peers as the most talented trumpeter of his generation, Lee Morgan was playing with the Giants while still in his teens. Then, in 1972, at the age of 33, his wife, Helen Morgan, walked into the East Village bar, Slug's Saloon, come to see her husband, Lee, whom she had nursed through heroin addiction. They fought. He physically threw her out. She walked back in and shot him, then handed over her gun and waited for the police to arrive.
Oh, that sounds wonderfully cheery. Okay. The movie you're going to be hearing a lot about because it is due out in the next few weeks. Personal Shopper, a thriller from Olivia Assayas, who did Clouds of Sils Maria a couple years ago, reteams him with Kristen Stewart, who plays Maureen, who hates her job. The saving grace of being a personal shopper for a fashionista in Paris is that it allows her to remain in Paris and provides time to concentrate on moonlighting as a medium to search for her recently deceased brother's spirit. It's got middling reviews from some people, but people who love Kristen have fallen in love with that film too.
This sounds kind of interesting in sort of a train wreck kind of a way. Prevenge. There's a very distinct sense of black humor, viciousness, and thrills here. You discover that, like a lot of mothers, Ruth, played by Alice Lowe, believes that her unborn baby is speaking to her. But unlike other mothers, it seems Ruth has a baby who is urging her to murder rather random people. Okay. Yes. My baby made me do it. That's good luck with that defense.
Yeah, Are there any more that you want to spotlight?
I'd like to bring up Public Intimacy.
Okay.
4 seasons, 4 stories, 4 couples, 4 tangled desires. A bathroom pickup burns on its own homophobia. A streetwalker succumbs to a lover. Blackmail and queer romance walk a dangerous path together, and madness takes over a woman's libido. In other words, it's another anthology thing, so Kim's right there.
I'm also interested in Roommates Wanted because I love one of the stars of it. I lost it again. I hate this thing. Roommates Wanted stars Andre Dossier, who was my supporting actor winner a couple years ago for his role in Diplomacy, which was a really hard-hitting drama about a docudrama about the last day of France under Nazi rule. Here, he plays a recently widowed man named Hubert. He's getting used to his new life in his spacious apartment and needs a housekeeper. In an unexpected twist, he finds himself offering a room to Manuela, a young student looking for shared accommodations, who is prepared to take on the job. While the setup seems standard, the actors, with the guiding hand of director Francois Dejanec, are fresh, lively, and particularly earnest. And I really loved Mr. Dossier's performance a couple years ago, so I am definitely looking forward to that. Any more?
Yes, I want to bring up Saint Amour.
Okay.
A wine tour like few others. Jean, played by Gerard Depardieu, wants his son Bruno to take over the family farm. And at this year's Paris Agricultural Show, he plans to let him know. Bruno, who has been joyously slogging away out in the country year-round, has a different plan for the Paris show: to get gloriously and rip-roaring drunk on as many of the best regional wines as he can.
Great, it's Sideways, the French version. So these are some of the films coming to the Victoria Film Festival, and Victoria, let me pull up the date here real quick. I don't want to short shift them, because they are, I would like to go to them one year and just have a lot of fun in person, because it sounds like a really great place to go. Victoria runs February 3rd through the 12th, and I think everybody will get a kick out of it. We are, as Kim said earlier in the show, she's not a documentary person like I am, but there are certain festivals in this country that do docs and all docs and only docs 100% of the time. The first one every year is this one tucked away in the little burg of Missoula, Montana, the Big Sky Documentary Film Festival.
When Subject Cinema returns.
Subject Cinema!
Hal, if you love movies, you should listen to the Cavebabble podcast.
I'm afraid I can't do that.
Why not? Do you have a problem with Eric and Valerie?
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
If they promised to cover more science fiction films, would that help?
This conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.
Hal. Sometimes I feel like we are from different circuit boards. If you change your mind, go to Cavebabble.com or subscribe to the Cavebabble podcast on iTunes.
T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown. Subject Cinema.
Welcome back to this special Subject Cinema. I'm T.C. Kirkham.
Hi, I'm Kim Brown.
Subject Cinema number 555, our 11th annual Fethtival of Film Festivals. We've hit 5 of them, plus extra coverage of Sundance, and we have 2 more to go. And this one, we every year until this year apparently we've attended our own first big local all doc festival, the Salem Film Fest. It's always the first week of March. We have a lot of fun. Before Salem, though, this one is the first that's all doc in the year, every year. It happens in mid to late February in the tiny little burg, well, not tiny, of Missoula, Montana. Missoula, I think there are around 35,000 people. It's the kind of city that I grew up in, like Lancaster or Newark or any of those cities that I grew up in when I was a teenager in my 20s when I was still in Ohio. And it's, Missoula is kind of a mecca now. It's a hipster hangout thanks to the presence of Hank Green, who is based there, and his company DFTBA Records and all of his video stuff and everything. Hank is an amazing entrepreneur. It's also the home of a bakery that was featured on Rick Seaback's latest show.
One of his latest shows about bakeries.
That place looked amazing.
Yep.
And It is the home of the Big Sky Documentary Film Festival. We first started spotlighting Big Sky about 5 years ago, because some of the stuff they pull is unique to them, and sometimes they are showing there for the first time even though they've been out for a while. They just showed the crash reel last year, and it's been out for 3 years. But when you look at them, you wonder what kind of stuff goes on. This, if you want to find all different walks of life, this is where you find the documentary that's covering it. Let's see what we start off with. I'll start off with All the Rage, from, I believe the director is co-director Michael Galinsky. His father read John Sarno's book Healing Back Pain in the 1980s and was mysteriously cured. 20 years later, when Michael was immobilized, he saw Dr. Sarno and began a 12-year odyssey to make a film about his work. While Dr. Sarno was dismissed by his peers, his work has changed millions of lives, including luminaries like Howard Stern and Larry David. So apparently people think he's a quack, but he does a lot of good work.
Yeah.
That's interesting to me. That's the kind of story that Nuts started off to be, too.
Yeah. Also at Big Sky is the documentary Among Wolves, directed by Sean Convey. It is a story out of Bosnia-Herzegovina. The Wolves are no ordinary biker club, as revealed in this gorgeously shot, surprisingly intimate portrait of trauma and survival. Still struggling from the aftermath of the Bosnian War, they organize charity for their small mountain towns and defend the threatened herd of wild horses they first met on the front line. It's out there with the horses. They confront their past and try to reclaim that territory as a space for healing.
This was definitely on my list, too.
And I think something like that is a really good thing that I think a lot of people need to see, because people think bikers, they think scumbags, they think terrible people.
And they're not.
And so many
we know a lot of them around here.
Yeah, we know
fine.
so many biker clubs that do really amazing, beautiful things. And I think it's more important to see that than just the leather and the hogs and stuff like that.
What happens when you're a rapper in a language that fewer than 20,000 people speak? That's a pretty scary thought. It's the story of Arctic Superstar from director Simon Brathen from Norway. Indigenous Sami rapper Nils Rune Utsi, who goes by Slin Craze, lives with his mother in Maes, a nearly abandoned town in the Arctic highlands of Norway. I don't know, it doesn't sound familiar to me. I don't think Andreas has been there. New Scandinavian cooking, sorry. Anyway. His dream is to make a living from his music and maybe even become world famous. But the problem is his native language has less than 20,000 people that now speak it. And it's an endangered language. I saw a couple pictures from this, and it looks really interesting. He seems like an interesting guy, and I'm curious to see what this is about.
Yeah. There's also Bright Lights. Bright Lights, starring Carrie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds, is an intimate...
Yeah, which premiered at Palm Springs. Go ahead.
Which is an intimate portrait of Hollywood royalty in all its eccentricity. At 83 years old, Grande Dame Debbie Reynolds, star of Singin' in the Rain, still performs a Las Vegas act dressed in gold lame. But performing takes its toll, and Debbie's health suffers. This devastates her daughter, Star Wars actress Carrie Fisher, whose response is both hilarious and heart-rendering. Carrie is helpless in the face of her mother's determination that the show must go on. Through vintage family films, iconic old world history comes to iconic old world Hollywood history comes to life. Rich cinema verite also takes us into the heart of Beverly Hills today, where Carrie and Debbie live together. This is a film about show business and bittersweet family love. I think it's all the more bittersweet with the death late last year of Carrie Fisher, and the death literally days afterwards of her mother, Debbie. Yeah,
the very next day, Debbie passed
Debbie
away.
Reynolds, which is just so unbearably
This is the
sad.
one film that's out there that you can see anytime. It is currently on HBO Go and HBO On Demand, and it made its premiere earlier this month. I love goofy documentaries, and somehow this is what this smells like to me. California Typewriter from director Doug Nickel is a documentary portrait of artists, writers, and collectors who remain steadfastly loyal to the typewriter as a tool and a muse. It features Tom Hanks, John Mayer, David McCullough, Sam Shepard, and others, and documents the struggle of California Typewriter, one of the last standing repair shops in America dedicated to keeping the aging machines clicking. I love quirky stuff like this. This should be a lot of fun for me.
There is also Charged. Charged chronicles the journey of chef and outdoorsman Eduardo Garcia and his recovery after being electrocuted by 2,400 volts of electricity miles from help in the Montana backcountry. Garcia had his hand amputated, lost ribs, muscle mass, and nearly his life, but more important than what he lost is what he found. Charge tells Eduardo's remarkable journey from getting up off the forest floor to becoming the man he is today.
Yeah, this sounds a lot of fun. I mean, it's a very inspirational story from what I can tell. And I was looking at a couple of things on their website about it, and it sounds fascinating. I hope it comes up here soon. If there wasn't already one crazy in the family, now there's two. Chasing Evil, the Robbie Knievel story from director Jesse James Miller, follows the legendary Evel Knievel's son, Robbie, who is another stuntman like his dad was, a stunt rider. His father was an icon, his father was a tyrant, and his father never let him out of his shadow. And all Robbie wanted to do was carry on the family name, and he has. But the full story should be pretty interesting, because I've always heard that Evel was kind of a dick. So I don't know. There you go.
Daddy Don't Go is...
I knew you would be gravitating toward that one. I knew it.
Captured over 2 years, Daddy Don't Go is a feature-length documentary about 4 disadvantaged fathers in New York City as they struggle to beat the odds and defy the deadbeat dad stereotype. Why did you think I would...
Because this is kind of like the antithesis of every Maury Povich show that airs about this. You are not the baby's father. These are 4 guys trying to take responsibility for what they did. And I think that... I knew that would attract you. It always does. Denial is a movie about electricity, about gender, and about filmmaking, and about the many ways we lie to ourselves when faced with overwhelming facts. It's the story of a family coming to terms with hard personal truths against the backdrop of a global crisis. I've read a little bit of this, and the movie is called Denial. It's from Derek Halquist, the director. Read a little bit about this, and it sounds interesting because it, again, has that whole cinema verde thing, and there's stuff in it that the family was a little uncomfortable with. So it's like, okay, that'll be fun.
Deprogrammed is about the rise of Ted Black Lightning Patrick and his deprogramming technique and anti-cult crusade. Deprogramming as a form of cult intervention started in 1971 and quickly snowballed into a vast underground movement composed of concerned parents, ex-cultists turned deprogrammers, and some sympathetic law enforcers whose mission was to physically and mentally remove individuals from groups referred to as cults. That should be extremely difficult to watch, but also very telling.
I think so too. Whoops, what did I do? Okay. I hit the wrong button. Can you find another one real quick?
Dr. Feelgood is the story of Dr. William Hurwitz, a preeminent pain specialist sentenced to 25 years in prison for drug trafficking. It provides a window into the ethical drama and dilemma of opioid prescriptions. Painkillers give doctors...
Which is a real problem in America right now, especially in the Northeast, which is a shame.
Painkillers give doctors tremendous power to relieve pain, a primary goal of any physician. But this power begets trouble when the same drugs can lead to addiction, abuse, and death.
Yeah. I think that's definitely gonna be a big one this year too.
Yeah.
The Guys Next Door, which I've been getting some interesting word of mouth about, also from directors Ali Humanick. I'm sorry if I got that wrong, Ali, and Amy Geller. Sorry, that's good. Got both of these poor ladies' names wrong. Bad TC. An intimate portrait of a real modern family, in quotes, meaning the TV series. Meet Eric and Sandro, a gay couple with daughters birthed by their friend Rachel, who's married with 3 teenagers. Told from candor and humor, this inspiring story of family and friendship brings light to the humanity that connects us all. It has already won multiple awards, including audience awards at the Woods Hole Film Festival in Massachusetts last summer, as well as the Middlebury, Vermont New Filmmakers Festival, and jury prizes at the Yes Film Festival in Columbus, Indiana, and Fairhope Film Festival in Alabama.
Oh, this one's going to really piss people off.
Uh-oh.
Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
Since the passage of Roe versus Wade 44 years ago, the self-labeled pro-life movement has won significant cultural, political, and legal battles. Now the stigma of abortion is prolific in Mississippi, and women in poverty and women of color are particularly vulnerable. Jackson is wrought with the racial and religious undertones of the Deep South, exploring the nuanced nature of abortion in America's Bible Belt. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
that's going to piss people off.
Well, yeah. Just getting into a couple more real quickly before we go on to the next one. This one intrigues me because, again, the storyline. Off the Rails from Adam Irving, the remarkable true story of Darius McCollum, a man with Asperger's syndrome whose overwhelming love of transit has landed him in jail 32 times for impersonating New York City bus drivers and train conductors and driving their routes. That's terrifying.
That's horrifying.
And Oklahoma City, which we talked about earlier, it premiered at Sundance, is the story of Timothy McVeigh and the Alfred P. Murrow building. There's 4 or 5 other ones on here. Plastic Ocean, which has also had a limited premiere around the country already, about the giant garbage dump that's in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. I first learned about that on Life After People a few years ago, and it does sound interesting. Is that where was that one? Is that the right one? No, that's not the one. There's one more here that I knew we would both find interesting. Unseen. After a 2-year period during which numerous women were reported missing in Cleveland's Mount Pleasant neighborhood, a reported rape leads police to a grisly discovery: a serial killer operating virtually in plain sight. Why did the police fail to investigate the missing persons cases? Why did neighbors turn a blind eye to the killer's activities? It's told through the wrenching testimony of survivors. This sounds hard-hitting and really like something that we would be intensely interested in.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Got one more?
Yeah, actually, I do. It's called Where to Miss. Becoming a taxi driver is Devkey's biggest wish. To reach this goal, Devkey has to stand up first against her father, then against her husband, and at the end, even against her father-in-law. Devkey's story in Where to Miss illustrates why it is so difficult for Indian women to step out of their deep embedded roles.
This sounds like a ripoff of Driving with Selvey, actually. It's a similar thing.
Well, maybe this is somebody that saw Selvey doing what they were doing and said, I want to do that too.
Maybe. I don't know. This is originally from 2015. It's making its way over here. Big Sky Documentary Film Festival will take place in late February in Missoula, Montana. If you're out that way, tell them you heard about their wonderful festival from Subject Cinema. We got a few titles we're going to run down from the first big international festival as well, and that's coming up next as we visit Berlin.
When Subject Cinema returns.
T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown. Subject Cinema.
So this thing we want to do, what exactly is it?
I think it's a podcast.
I think he just made that word up.
Anyway, what would it be about?
It can be about those things we see in the things, with the pictures and the acting, and sometimes Ryan Gosling.
Oh, you mean films?
Yeah, those. We can talk about those.
And Ryan Gosling.
And what would we call it?
Women who speak weirdly?
Ladies, young ladies. All the single ladies.
Oh, wait, I know. Chicks with accents.
Yeah, and we could use that song from the Beatles and that movie, Across the Universe.
Cool.
Yeah.
Listen to the Across the Universe podcast.
Brought to you by the Chicks with Accents.
Available just about everywhere.
Subject Cinema.
Welcome back to Subject Cinema. I'm T.C. Kirkham.
Hi, I'm Kim Brown.
I'm sorry to say we've misplaced our research for Berlin. Berlinale is happening in mid-February. It is the first big festival of the year in Europe, and it will be followed in weeks and months ahead by London, Venice, and all the other ones. Berlin is. I feel really bad because I've been trying to put all my notes in the same place, and it looks like I grabbed the wrong thing, and I can't get back to it. I've been trying, and I don't know where it is. I do know that Logan, the new X-Men film, Hugh Jackman is having its world premiere at Berlin, which seems odd.
Is truly weird.
They do a lot of odd premieres in Berlin. They also do some really good stuff, and I always look forward to Berlin because I can almost always find a picture that features Joel Bassman, who was on our Rising Stars list a couple years ago, and it's he's a wonderful Austrian actor and a rising star, and I apologize to the people who came in expecting to hear Berlin, and I'll find it and we'll have it on next week's show. Fair enough? I'm really sorry, and we'll just have to call it a bump segment for next week. In the meantime, we do have the winners from Sundance and Slamdance, and they are really interesting. Slamdance only has a few, because they only have a few films. Their winner of the big prize this year was Dim the Fluorescence. We didn't talk about that one. With an honorable mention, Kate Can't Swim for narrative. And the jury prize for documentary feature went to the violin movie Strad Style. And honorable mention, The Modern Jungle. And the other awards that they have at Slamdance for the jury are all for shorts, and we'll talk about that in a second. The Spirit of Slamdam Award winner went to Neighborhood Food Drive. The Audience Award for Narrative Feature went to Dave Made a Maze. It is not, by the way, the same Bill Watterson. I looked it up during the break. But I can't wait to see that. This sounds underground. Opening night film, maybe, please? This sounds great for you guys. Documentary feature, also Strad Style. Beyond feature, Future 38. I'm still thinking, I really am thinking that the Dave movie, what was it again? Dave Made a Maze. That just has me thinking it's going to be a big hit. I don't know for that. Sundance winners. Last night was the big Sundance award winner award ceremony.
Yep.
You could have streamed it online. I didn't think to check and put it up. I'm sorry. Jury prize, grand prize went to I Don't Feel at Home at This Anymore, in This World Anymore, the Melanie Linsky Elijah Wood movie. Documentary grand prize went to Dina. World Cinema Dramatic went to the Niall Hilton Incident. World Cinema Documentary to Last Men of Aleppo. Special Jury Award for Inspirational Filmmaking went to Step. For Editing, Unrest. For Storytelling, Strong Island. For the Orwell Award, Icarus, so that is a narrative. I was wrong, it is a narrative. Directing, it is. Documentary Special Award, I'm sorry. Icarus. Icarus. I'm sorry. Let me just stop in the middle. Isn't that the name of the rockets in space that are supposed to take care of? Wasn't it actually Project Icarus that they were talking about in Meteor, the real name?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, I wonder what that's about. We'll have to check that out. And documentary directing to Peter Nix for The Force. Jury award for best cinematography went to Ty Sheridan's new movie, The Yellow Birds. Breakthrough performance, Shantae Adams for Roxanne. Breakthrough director, Maggie Betts for the drama, the nunnery drama Novitiate, and dramatic directing award to Eliza Hittman for Beach Rats. Excellence in cinematography for documentary to Machines, and jury award for Commanding Vision documentary Motherland, and masterful storytelling documentary Rumble, the Indians Who Rocked the World. I'm just going to skip down here to the Audience Award winners. The Audience Award winner for narrative was Crown Heights, the documentary Chasing Coral. World Cinema, Sueño Entro Idioma. Would that sound right?
Sound close.
I dream in another language. World Cinema Documentary, Joshua versus Teenager versus Superpower. Screenwriting Award, Ingrid Goes West. Audience Award, Gook, which is a Korean-American-centered drama. And the Alfred P. Sloan Prize for special jury prize to the film version of Marjorie Prime, which was done on stage originally a couple years ago, starring Lois Smith. Interesting winners on both of those. every year the festivals take on more importance, and this is one of the reasons we devote so much time on this show and 3 other shows throughout the years to these festivals. These are the films we'll go to the films in Boston when the Boston Strings of Festival starts. There'll be all these films that we've not heard of, and usually Underground and IFFB in particular have quite a few Sundance and Slamdance titles, and a few at Salem usually too, the Salem Film Fest. And we'll see these and know that we're going to be seeing good entertainment.
Definitely.
They made a movie, Underground. Guys, somebody out there, bring it to Boston.
Yeah.
That's going to do it for this week's show. Normally we would have Plug Central, we'd have everything else. We are going to plug our other shows, though. Platinum Rose's Garden is back later tonight. She's a day late because we were having some time issues yesterday.
Yeah. Platinum Rose's Garden is my Supernatural podcast where I look at this week's episode of Supernatural, as we said, day late. Sorry. And I'm looking at season 12, episode 9 of Supernatural, First Blood.
What are you trying to do? Go back in time 3 years?
Sorry.
Tuesday Digidex with yours truly, all the DVD, Blu-ray, and on-demand streaming releases, now including Netflix and Amazon Prime. Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern. And Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern. 3-Minute Weekend, also with yours truly, all the new film releases in the U.S., both widescreen multiplex and little bitty itty-bitty limited releases, all at once.
Yep.
This Wednesday, the premiere of my new show, Catastrophe Vortex, all about disaster movies. We hope you'll be coming over and checking that out. I'll have 3 great movies, plus a few little odds and ends every week, and it'll be up Wednesday evening starting February 1st. And if you come over to our Patreon campaign right now at patreon.com/PNRNetworks and pick the $75 or $100 level and pick the Catastrophe Club, you're going to get a whole bunch of extra bonuses for joining Patreon this week only. It ends Wednesday when the show goes up.
Mm-hmm. And Thursday is our list show, Front Row 5 and 10. And this week we each give our opinions on the top 10 best Animaniacs segments.
Yep, and we love Animaniacs, so it's so hard. And don't forget to check out Cavebabble with Eric and Valerie Lyon every weekend. Movies, games, TV, odd things to eat, and more with our lovely, lovely friends in Missouri.
Yep.
Eric and Valerie Lyon. Cavebabble every weekend on PNR Networks. Don't forget to write us. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. Watch for the newsletter and subscribe there. And tell your friends about us. We always appreciate that. SubjectCinema@PNRNetworks.com if you'd like to drop us a line and let us know what's going on in your life. And also, use that address if you're listening and would like to let us know about a local festival that you're attending or you know about. By all means, we keep track. I have a database of like 300 festivals around the world that I keep a track of every year.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are itty-bitty tiny ones that nobody's heard of. They're just local ones, like the Boston Bike Festival and the Boston Pancake Festival.
Mm-hmm.
Boston Pancake Festival? I still don't get that. Anyway, let us know about it. Always drop us a line. Give us whatever information you got.
Yeah.
I'd like to check it out and see what they've got.
If we can't make it to your festival, we will definitely talk about it so other people where you live hear about it and go, hey, that sounds awesome.
Don't say definitely because we never know how much time we're going to have, but we do give as much time as possible to festivals. We will try to get it on the air for you.
Right. No, I'm definitely saying that, but I'm saying, if your festival's in, Eastern Patagonia or something.
I know. I was playing with the wording because you said we'll definitely talk about it. We may not be able to definitely talk about it, but we'll try.
Okay, fine.
Fair enough?
Fair enough.
All right. We hope you've enjoyed this, and we hope you keep hello. We hope you keep a list of what we've been talking about, and if not, I'll have a list of the titles we brought up probably later in the week at some point on eCinemaOne.com, where you should be checking for new news, information, and podcasts every day of the week at eCinemaOne.com.
Yep.
Is that it?
I think so.
Let's blow this puppy!
And own it, drive it like you stole it, roll it, this is your life, you can be anything, you gotta learn to rock and roll it, you gotta put the pedal down, and drive it like you stole it.
For Subject Cinema, I'm T.C. Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
May your popcorn always be better.
And may your roses always be in bloom.
Let's go to the festival.
You're not going to start again, are you?
No.
You have been listening to Subject Cinema with hosts T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown. Subject Cinema is produced by PNRNetworks, Boston, Massachusetts, which is solely responsible for its content. Subject Cinema theme performed by Eric Lyon. Subject Cinema is recorded and produced using Sony Vegas products. Subject Cinema is copyright 2017 by PNRNetworks under a Creative Commons license. Check out a new episode of Subject Cinema every weekend. Until next time, this is Bob Taylor for Subject Cinema, and we'll see you at the movies.
That's all.
Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.